They dragged him out of the clan gates by his feet. His head slammed against the cobblestones. His chi channels were burned out. The blade he had been proud of for 4 years was now in the hands of a blood-related upstart. The enemy spat and said the dogs would finish him off. But in the roadside ditch, Liang Wei did not cry. He was calculating. Now imagine how it was before. The blade sang. 4 years of fire and sweat and sleepless nights had condensed into a single note of pure metal. Liang Wei ran his palm over the blade. The scanner on the wall flashed. 427. Highest bronze. A record for the Liao clan certification in 40 years. He exhaled for the first time in 4 years. Nearby, a cheap clay teapot was cooling, and a half-eaten bun lay on the table. His mother had slipped it into his sleeve before dawn. She said it was for good luck. Liang Wei smiled. Luck is unnecessary for someone who has worked harder than anyone else. And just then, the workshop door swung open. Liao Zihao entered. The clan chief's second cousin, a good-for-nothing who had failed this very exam 3 times and returned 3 times with a new set of tools, using the family's gold. Behind him were 2 elders in ceremonial robes, and behind the elders is the clan head himself, Liao Zhenhua. Liang Wei lowers his eyes. That is the custom. An apprentice does not look at the head first. Zihao walks past him as if past a wall. He grabs the blade with his bare hands. He twirls it. He runs his finger along the edge and doesn't even cut himself because he holds the weapon like a corpse. No real blacksmith would handle steel like that. Zihao turns toward his uncle and smiles. He says his certification is finally ready, that he's pleased with the work. The elders nod simultaneously, in unison, as if they had rehearsed that nod in advance. And right then, something snaps inside Liang Wei. Not from pain, from realization. He figures it all out in a single second. The blade he's been forging for 4 years, a record of 420 Fen stars. None of it was ever his. All of it belonged to the blood heir from the very beginning. The head looks at Liang Wei with empty eyes. No malice, no shame, just accounting. He says that an apprentice of the Liao clan must not surpass the blood heir, that this is written in the charter, paragraph 14, and that such audacity warrants the severing of the chi channels and expulsion. Liang Wei opens his mouth. The elder on the left steps forward and jabs 2 fingers into his chest. Quickly, precisely, professionally. Something inside snaps, not like a bone, like a string. A high-pitched sound pierces his entire body from throat to toe. Liang Wei collapses to his knees. Black blood gushes from his mouth, thick, with the smell of iron and burning. His cultivation channels are seared shut. All of them. Every single one. He is no longer a cultivator, not a blacksmith, no one. Zihao leans toward him, brings his face close, whispers that Liang Wei's mother makes good tea, that he'll stop by the funeral, and kicks him in the face with his boot. Liang Wei falls onto his back. The ceiling swims. It blurs. It turns gray. It turns black. The last thing he sees is his blade in someone else's hands. 427 stars of someone else's triumph. And this is where the strangest part begins. In the darkness, Liang Wei does not cry. He counts. Liao Zihao. 1. The elder who touched his chest. 2. The second elder who nodded. 3. The head of the Liao clan, Liao Zhenhua. 4. 6 witnesses in the hall who saw everything and remained silent. 10. The entire Liao clan built upon this silence. He lies on the stone floor of his own workshop and whispers with his lips alone that he will forge each of them into metal, that they will serve him, and feel every blow of the hammer. They throw him out the gate before dawn. 2 guards drag him by the legs. His head bangs against the cobblestones. Blood draws a thin black line on the white stone. At the gate, they toss him into a roadside ditch. 1 guard spits and drops what the dogs will finish off. The second doesn't even look. The sky is brightening above Liang Wei. The first rays of the sun are warm and utterly meaningless. His body won't obey him. His chi channels are dead. Every breath cuts from the center of his chest to his fingertips. He tries to move his right hand. It works. His left, same thing. His legs are less responsive, but they bend. His spine is intact. His eyes see. His ears hear. His brain works. Liang Wei rolls onto his stomach and crawls. Away from the gate. Away from the clan. Away from the city. He crawls for 2 hours. Then he gets up on all fours. On his knees. On his feet. He staggers like a drunk. He walks. Every step sends a dull, throbbing pain through his scorched meridians. He doesn't stop. By noon, he reaches the crossroads of the trade routes. Caravan drivers look at him and look away. A ragged boy in a blood-soaked apprentice's robe, struck down. You can tell by the empty eye sockets of the clan seal on his sleeve. Someone tosses him a stale flatbread. Liang Wei picks it up. Chews. He can't taste it. He keeps going. By evening, he reaches Rotten Tooth Gorge, a narrow crevice between 2 cliffs, where the trade routes end and no man's land begins. Bandits, deserters, bounty hunters. Normal people don't come here. Liang Wei ventures in. He has nowhere else to go. His mother and sister are still in the city, hostages of the clan. If he goes back for them, they'll kill him on the spot. If he doesn't go back, they live. For now, they live. For now, they're useful as leverage. He finds a hollow in the rock. He sits down. He presses his back against the cold stone. He closes his eyes. And right then, something flashes in his mind. Not light, not sound, heat. As if in the center of his chest, where there had just been dead channels, someone had lit a furnace. Ancient, enormous, a fire older than these mountains. Liang Wei throws his eyes open. A seal hangs before his inner vision, complex, multi-layered, made of symbols found in no clan textbook. It pulses in time with his heartbeat. With every beat, it becomes clearer. He doesn't know what it is. He doesn't know where it comes from. But he knows it is a legacy. The knowledge comes without words. It simply is, like breath. The seal belonged to his father, a simple salt merchant who died when Liang Wei was 11, who never once held a hammer, never once spoke of blacksmithing, who left his son only debts and the habit of counting to 10 before answering. The heart of the primordial blacksmith. That name comes on its own too. The seal does not repair the channels. They are dead and will remain dead, but the seal renders them unnecessary. Liang Wei sits in a dark crevice without a clan, without channels, without money, without weapons, but with a fire in his chest that has burned for 3,000 years, waiting for a blacksmith from whom everything will be taken away except the will to forge. He fumbles in his bosom. His fingers find a rusty nail, a piece of metal he mechanically picked up on the road that morning, a blacksmith's habit. He clenches it in his fist. The seal in his chest responds with warmth. Somewhere deep in the gorge, voices thunder, rough, drunken, the clang of cheap weapons. Headhunters. Liang Wei doesn't move. He counts. 4 names, 10 guilty parties, 9 clans, and a rusty nail in his fist. That's enough. There were 8 of them. Liang Wei could tell by their footsteps, heavy boots on stone, 6 pairs walking in a line, 1 pair slightly ahead, 1 behind. The one in front is the leader. The one at the back is the lookout, the standard formation for low-ranking mercenaries. Liang Wei knew this because the blacksmiths of the Liao clan served such men every week. They sharpened swords, they patched armor, They took payment and memorized habits. The voices grew louder. The torchlight danced across the walls of the crevice. The first of them spotted Liang Wei and stopped. Then he laughed. A guy in a torn apprentice's robe. The clan seal on his sleeve was empty. Struck out. The leader pushed his way forward, a large man with a shaved head and a scar running diagonally across his face. A short sword with worn-away engravings hung at his belt. Liang Wei narrowed his eyes. He couldn't scan them. The channels were dead, but the seal in his chest twitched, and the number came on its own. 340. The leader was upper bronze. The rest were weaker. The average was around 180. 8 people. The group's total ZSHK was approximately 1,780. The leader looked down at Liang Wei. He said there had been too many apprentices getting their names crossed out lately, that they were swarming into the gorge like rats, and that the ears of a blacklisted blacksmith on the black market fetched 3 silver lians. One of the mercenaries pulled out a knife and said he'd cut them off himself. Liang Wei didn't move. He was staring at the crevice. Narrow. Barely enough room for 2 people to pass side by side. Walls of soft limestone. Stones on the floor, small and medium-sized. Above his head, 4 meters up, a ledge with a crack. 4 years in the workshop had taught him to see the material. Any material. Stone, metal, space, geometry. Liang Wei raised his hands, palms up. He said he wanted to pray before he died. Just 1 minute. The leader snorted. He nodded. He could spare a minute. Liang Wei stood up. Slowly. He swayed. Took a step toward the wall. A second. He bent as if bowing. His right hand slid down and picked up a long, thin shard of stone from the ground. His left already held a rusty nail. For 4 years he had worked with wire and strings. He had forged fishing lines for trapping artifacts. He had woven nets from metal thread as thin as a hair. His hands remembered everything. The channels were dead. His hands were alive. In the 30 seconds it took the leader to pick at his tooth with his fingernail, Liang Wei stretched 3 threads. The first, from the stone by the left wall to the ledge on the right, at ankle level. The second, from a crack in the ceiling to a heavy boulder on the floor. 1 tug, and the boulder would smash the support. The third, from a rusty nail to a stone fragment. The tension was such that if it snapped, the nail would fly like a crossbow bolt. Where did the threads come from? He pulled them from his own robe. The fabric of the Liao clan's workshop garments is woven with steel fibers, protection against sparks. Every apprentice carries 50 meters of the finest wire on their person and doesn't even know it. Liang Wei knew. He was done. He straightened up. He turned to the hunters. The leader said the minute was up. Liang Wei nodded and stepped back. The first mercenary moved forward and caught the bottom thread with his foot. He fell face first onto the rocks. The second stumbled over the first. The third tried to step over them and got a flying nail in the throat. The rusty iron entered precisely between his collarbones. The mercenary wheezed. He fell. Liang Wei felt the seal in his chest flare up. Heat spread from his heart to his palms. Something began to flow. Not blood, not qi, something else. The life energy of the dying enemy poured into the seal like water into a funnel. A number flashed before his inner eye. 165. The mercenary with a ZSHK of 165 was dying slowly. The nail hadn't killed him instantly, and the seal took it all. 60% with a quick death, up to 95 with a slow one. This one was dying slowly. 156 units flowed into the blacksmith's reserve. Liang Wei snapped the second thread. Valoon crashed down from the ceiling. It crushed the 4th mercenary completely and the 5th up to the waist. The 4th died instantly. ZSHK 175, 105 units went into the reserve. The 5th screamed and tried to get out. He died slowly. HP 190, 178 went to the reserve. Panic! The 3 remaining foot soldiers and the leader. The 6th rushed to run back. The 7th pressed himself against the wall. The 8th drew his sword and slashed blindly into the darkness. Liang Wei was already at the wall. He pressed himself against the stone. He let the blade pass by his ear. He grabbed the 8th by the wrist with both hands and yanked him toward him. He spun him around. He shoved him into the 7th. Both fell. Liang Wei picked up the sword. Heavy, poor balance, cheap iron, but sharp. 2 strikes. The 7th and 8th stopped moving. HP 170 and 185. A slow death. The reserve grew. The 6th ran to the bend in the crevice. The 3rd trap awaited him there. A thread at neck level. He ran fast. The thread was thin. The result was predictable. ZSHK 195, instant death. 117 went into the reserve. The leader remained. ZSHK 340. He stood in the middle of the crevice. 6 of his men lay around him. The 7th was gasping for air under a boulder. The torch was burning out on the floor. The leader slowly drew a short sword. Liang Wei out of habit. No number appeared. 0. Channelless. An empty space. The leader bared his teeth. He said that a channelless rat had killed 6 with cunning, but cunning could not replace chi. That he would cut him in half and sell both halves separately. Liang Wei stood his ground. In his hand was a cheap sword. In his chest, the seal blazed like a furnace. The reserve had 700. The 5th mercenary under the boulder was still dying, giving off energy in drips. The leader attacked, quickly, professionally. Bronze rank is no joke. Speed twice that of an ordinary person. Strength 3 times as much. Liang Wei couldn't compete. A body without chi channels is not enhanced by anything. He is an ordinary man. But an ordinary man who had stood at the anvil for 16 hours a day for 4 years, whose hands are faster than any warrior's because a blacksmith's hammer is heavier than a sword. Liang Wei dodged the first blow, parried the second, missed the third. The blade sliced his left shoulder to the bone. Pain flared white. Liang Wei stepped inside the range, up close, where a short sword is useless, and rammed his forehead into the leader's nose. A crunch. Blood. The leader staggered back. Liang Wei thrust his cheap sword into his thigh, twisted it, pulled it out, thrust it into his stomach again. The leader sank to his knees. His eyes were wide open. He didn't understand. A channelless cripple had just killed him. Not with chi, not with an artifact, with his bare hands and rusty steel. The leader died slowly. 3 minutes. ZSHK 340. The slow death yielded 312 units. Reserve 1,640. Liang Wei sat down on the ground next to the body. His shoulder was bleeding. His head was spinning. His hands were shaking. But the seal on his chest glowed with steady heat. He looked at the rusty nail, the very same one. It had pierced the throat of the first mercenary and came out the back. A piece of rusty metal covered in blood. Liang Wei reached out and took it. The seal responded. Reserve 1,640. 1-to-1 conversion. 1,640 reserve points would turn into a ZSHK 1,640 artifact. Silver rank. He closed his eyes. He clenched the nail in his palm and began to forge. Without an anvil. Without a hammer. Without a furnace. The heat of the seal flowed through his palm into the metal. The nail glowed red hot. Turned black, began to change shape, stretched out, thinned. It gained an edge, it gained balance. It gained a weight that Liang Wei felt was perfect because it was his weight, his artifact, his first. When he opened his eyes, a black dagger lay in his hand, a blade the length of a palm, metal as dark as a starless night sky. ZSHK 1640. Silver rank, made from a rusty nail. Behind the rock at the entrance to the crevice, a soft thud sounded. Something had fallen to the ground. Liang Wei turned his head. A man was hiding behind the boulder. A merchant, not young. In his hands was a scroll with an order that he had just dropped. The merchant looked at the black dagger, then at Liang Wei, then back at the dagger. His lips moved, but the sound didn't come out right away. He whispered that it was impossible, that an apprentice without channels was holding silver. Liang Wei looked at the merchant, then at the dagger, then at the 8 bodies in the crevice. Somewhere far beyond the mountains, in the capital, Liao Zihao was now sleeping in silk sheets with the stolen blade on the wall. Liang Wei gripped the hilt of the dagger, cold steel. This was only the beginning. The merchant hadn't run away. That was the first thing Liang Wei noticed. The man who had just seen a channelless cripple kill 8 people and forge a silver artifact from a nail hadn't bolted. He stood behind a boulder and watched. His eyes were greedy, not out of fear, out of calculation. Liang Wei got to his feet. His left shoulder was numb. Blood had soaked through his sleeve to his elbow and was dripping from his fingers onto the stone. He pressed his right hand against the wound and looked at the merchant. The merchant was short, thin, about 50 years old, dressed in a coarse-woven traveling robe. At his belt hung a pigskin pouch and a knife for sharpening writing brushes. Not a warrior, not a cultivator, just a merchant. But Liang Wei's seal had picked up on something else. A medallion hung from the merchant's neck beneath his collar, small, inconspicuous, with a symbol Liang Wei had seen once in the Liao clan archives, a crossed-out anvil, the mark of the black market for artifacts, the only economy beyond the control of the 9 clans. The merchant caught his gaze, pulled his collar up higher. Too late. Liang Wei had already seen it. He said he needed a bandage and food, and that he was ready to pay. The merchant asked, with what? Liang Wei nodded toward the bodies. Every mercenary was armed. Cheap, but metal. The merchant paused. Then he nodded. An hour later, they were sitting by the fire on a flat rock above a crevice. The merchant bandaged Liang Wei's shoulder with a strip of cloth and applied an ointment that smelled of pine needles and something bitter. The pain subsided. It didn't disappear, but it receded into the background. The merchant introduced himself as Ho Len. He said he had been traveling this route for 3 years. He transported small goods from the southern provinces to the capital and back. Liang Wei ate rice with dried fish and said nothing. He was waiting for a question. The question came. Ho Lan asked how a channelless apprentice had created a silver artifact without a furnace and without qi. Liang Wei said that was his business. Ho Lian nodded. Then he took a small crystal out of his pouch, transparent, with a murky spark inside, a scanner, not clan-made, black market, roughly made but functional. He pointed the crystal at Liang Wei's dagger. The crystal flashed and displayed a number, 1,640. Ho Lian stared at the number for 10 seconds. Then he put the crystal away. His hands weren't shaking, but his voice grew quieter. He said that such an artifact was worth at least 500 gold liang on the black market. That for 500 gold liang, one could buy an estate in the province or hire a band of mercenaries for half a year. Liang Wei said he didn't need money. He needed information. Where the Liao clan's patrols were currently in the province, how many there were, what routes, what is their average ZSHK? Ho Lian narrowed his eyes. He asked why a dismissed apprentice would need to know the patrol routes. Liang Wei looked him in the eye. He said one word, hunting. Ho Lian was silent for a long time. The campfire crackled. The night sky above the gorge was clear and full of stars that didn't care. Then the merchant spoke. He said that the Liao clan maintains 4 patrol units in the southern province, 10 men in each. The average HP of a fighter is 200 to 350. Commanders, from 500 to 700. Silver ranked. They patrol the trade routes and collect taxes from independent blacksmiths. The routes change every week, but always pass through 3 points: Red Clay Bridge, Sleeping Ox Pass, and the village of Kanto, where the clan's transshipment depot is located. Liang Wei memorized every word, every number. He asked about the nearest patrol. Lian said that a 10-man squad led by Liao Feng was scheduled to cross the Red Clay Bridge the morning after tomorrow. Liao Feng. ZSK 680. Silver. A distant relative of the head. Known for burning down a village of lone blacksmiths 3 years ago because one of them forged a rank 120 knife. Above bronze. The law of the 9 clans. No one outside the clan forges above bronze. Violators are burned along with their families. Liang Wei finished his water. He set the empty cup down on the stone. He asked Lian how much he would charge for a steady stream of information. The merchant named his price: 1 bronze rank artifact per month. Liang Wei said that was expensive. Lian said that information that saves lives is never expensive. Liang Wei smirked. For the first time since the betrayal, he stood up. His shoulder throbbed, but it was bearable. The dagger hung from his belt in a homemade sheath made from a piece of leather stripped from the boot of a dead leader. ZSHK 1640 on the belt of a cripple who'd been written off. An absurdity that no one in this world had yet been able to explain. He left at dawn. Len watched him go and touch the black market medallion under his collar. Then he took a small notebook from his bosom and began to write. Liang Wei was heading south, toward the Red Clay Bridge, a 2-day journey. He walked and thought. A patrol, 10 men, average ZSHK 250, commander 680. Total loot, if everyone is killed at maximum conversion, is approximately 3,200 units, plus current reserve 0. The dagger with 1,640 ZSHK can be reforged. Cascade forging gives a 15% bonus for reforging. If you add 3,200 to 1,640 and multiply by 1.15, you get approximately 5,566. A gold rank artifact. That is, if everything goes perfectly. It won't be perfect. Commander Silver. ZSHK 680 isn't some ragtag gang in a ravine. He's a trained warrior with a clan artifact. Liang Wei needs to be smarter. He needs to be more precise. He needs to use what he has. The bridge. He's a blacksmith. He knows bridges. He knows stone. He knows metal. He knows how they break. He knows where the cracks are. He knows where to strike so the structure collapses. 4 years at the anvil and a lifetime in the workshop taught him one thing. Everything breaks. Everything. You just need to know where. He reached the bridge by evening on the 2nd day. The Red Clay Bridge. A stone arch spanning a deep ravine, 12 meters long, 6 meters above the water. Built 200 years ago and never repaired. Liang Wei climbed down under the bridge and examined the supports. He ran his fingers over the stone. He found 3 weak spots, cracks from age, erosion from the water. One support was held up by nothing more than a promise and habit. He worked all night. He weakened 2 of the points even further. He prepared the 3rd so that a single precise strike would bring the entire structure crashing down. Then he climbed back up. He found a position on the cliff above the bridge. He checked the angles. He checked the distances. He checked the vife. He lay down on a rock and waited. The ZSHK 1640 dagger lay nearby. The black metal did not reflect the stars. It absorbed them. Somewhere in the capital, Liang Wei's mother is not sleeping right now. She is sitting by the window, looking out at the street, waiting, not knowing for what. Her younger sister is sleeping beside her. She is 12. She doesn't know her brother has been struck from the list. They told her he'd left for an internship. Liang Wei lay on the rock, clutching the dagger. He whispered 4 names with his lips alone. Zi Hao, Elder 1, Elder 2, the head. Then he added a 5th, Liao Feng, the one who burned down the village for a rank 120 dagger. Tomorrow morning, Liao Feng will cross this bridge, and the bridge won't hold him. The patrol appeared at dawn. 10 men in the Liao clan's uniform armor, dark blue metal with silver engravings on the shoulder guards. Liao Feng led the way, tall, thin, with a long spear on his shoulder and the face of a man who was bored. ZSHK 680, silver rank. Behind him were 9 soldiers, 4 with swords, 3 with halberds, 2 archers. Average ZSHK from 200 to 350, a standard clan patrol unit, enough to wipe out a village, not enough to interest a real enemy. Liang Wei lay on a rock and counted their steps. The bridge is 12 meters long, 10 men in a column of 2. The interval between pairs is 1.5 meters. When the last pair steps onto the bridge, the first pair will be 3 meters from the opposite end. At that moment, all 10 will be on the arch at the same time. The total weight, including armor and weapons, is about a ton. The weak support won't hold. They were walking. Liang Wei waited. The first pair stepped onto the bridge. The stone beneath their feet creaked. No one paid any attention. The second pair, the third, the fourth. Liao Feng walked in the center. The 5th pair. The bridge groaned. One of the soldiers looked back. Liao Feng didn't even turn his head. The last pair stepped onto the stone. Liang Wei raised his dagger and hurled it downward, not at people, into the stone, into that very third point he had prepared during the night. The black blade of the ZSHK 1640 struck the crack in the support with a force that had nothing to do with the thrower's muscles. A silver rank artifact carries energy equivalent to a strike from a silver rank cultivator. The support split. The bridge collapsed in a second and a half. 12 meters of stone crashed into the ravine. 10 people fell down. 6 meters, plus the debris, plus their own armor, which became coffins during the fall. Dust rose in a column. The roar echoed through the gorge and returned 3 times. Liang Wei was already descending the slope, quickly, leaping from rock to rock. His shoulder ached, but he wasn't thinking about his shoulder. He was thinking about the numbers. A 6-meter fall in armor, at least 3 dead instantly, another 3 seriously wounded. The rest were concussed. The silver rank commander would survive. ZSHK 680 meant a reinforced body, reinforced bones. He would fall and get back up, but he wouldn't get up right away. 10 seconds. Liang Wei needed 5. He reached the bottom of the ravine. The dust hadn't settled yet. Moans, screams, the crunch of rock under the bodies. A dagger was sticking out of a split support. Liang Wei yanked it out on the run. The first soldier was lying on his back, alive, concussed, tried to raise his arm, couldn't, spine. ZSHK 210. Liang Wei slit his throat in one motion. The seal flashed. 197 units to the reserve. Second soldier, dead, neck broken on impact. ZSHK 195, instant death. 117 units. Third, alive, moaning, both legs trapped under debris. ZSHK 240, a slow death will yield more. Liang Wei left him, moved on. The 4th is dead, the 5th is dead, the 6th is alive. A dagger in the stomach, slowly. HP 280. The reserve grew. The 7th tried to crawl, dragging his legs. His back was broken, but his hands worked. He reached for his sword. Liang Wei stepped on his palm, looked him in the eyes. The soldier was young, about 20, frightened. He whispered that he had a family. Liang Wei replied that the blacksmiths from that village had families too. The dagger went between his ribs. ZSHK 200. The 8th archer, alive but unconscious, throat slit. The 9th, a halberdier, crushed by a stone, dying on his own. The seal gathered energy in a stream. The reserve grew with every second. Liao Feng. The commander stood up, just as Liang Wei had expected. 10 seconds. A silver rank body, reinforced bones, reinforced muscles. He rose from beneath the rubble and brushed the dust off his shoulder pads. A spear in his hand. His face was bloodied from a gash on his forehead, but his eyes were clear, angry. He saw Liang Wei, saw the dagger in his hand, saw the bodies. He scanned Liang Wei. 0, channelless. Then he scanned the dagger. A number appeared, and Liao Feng blinked. 1640. Silver. In the hands of a channelless 0. He said it was impossible, that a channelless couldn't hold an artifact above iron rank, that it would tear him apart from the reverse flow of qi. Liang Wei didn't answer. He attacked. Dagger against spear, close combat against ranged. Stupidity. Liao Feng thrust his spear. Accurate, fast, silver rank. The tip passed a centimeter from Liang Wei's ribs. He dodged. A second strike. Liang Wei parried with his dagger and was knocked back 2 meters. The difference in strength was monstrous. ZSHK 680 against the body of an ordinary man. Liao Feng attacked in a flurry. 3 strikes. 5. 7. Liang Wei dodged. He retreated. He stumbled over debris. He got a cut on his thigh, a cut on his forearm. Blood was flowing. Liao Feng took his time. He realized his enemy was physically weak. He was toying with him, enjoying himself. He said he recognized the robe, the expelled apprentice, the very one whose blade had been taken by the young master Zihao. He said that Zihao had been showing off that blade at a feast 3 days ago. Liang Wei stopped. He stopped retreating. His eyes changed. Not out of anger, out of calculation. Liao Feng struck. The spear flew toward his chest. Liang Wei did not dodge. He stepped forward to meet it. The spear pierced his left shoulder clean through, the very one that had already been wounded. The tip emerged from the back. Liang Wei exhaled through clenched teeth. Then he grabbed the spear shaft with his left hand and squeezed. He held it. Liao Feng yanked. The spear didn't budge. A channelless cripple with a spear in his shoulder held the silver warrior in place. Not qi, not strength, pain. The pain became an anchor. Liang Wei thrust a dagger into his throat from bottom to top. ZSHK 680. Liang Wei didn't let him die quickly. He twisted the blade. He took a step back. He pulled the spear out of his shoulder. Blood gushed out. His own and someone else's. Liao Feng was on his knees. He was clutching his throat with both hands. Blood was flowing between his fingers. He looked at Liang Wei and tried to say something. He couldn't. Liang Wei looked down at him. He said that in the village Liao Feng had burned down 3 years ago, there had lived a blacksmith who had forged a rank 120 knife, and that this blacksmith had also been on his knees when they set the village on fire. Liao Feng fell face first onto the rocks. ZSHK 680. Slow death. 95% conversion. 646 units to the reserve. Reserve. 2,876. The third soldier under the rubble finally stopped breathing. Another 224. Total reserve, 3,100. Plus current dagger ZSHK 1,640. Cascade reforging with a 15% bonus. 1,640 plus 3,100 equals 4,740 multiplied by 1.15. Liang Wei gripped the dagger with both hands. The seal flared up. The black metal glowed red hot. It began to change shape. It flowed like mercury. It stretched out. It grew longer, heavier. It took on a guard. It found its balance. The blade was straight, single-edged, a sword, a real sword. When the metal cooled, Liang Wei held a sword in his hands. Black like that dagger, but longer and heavier. Thin lines ran along the blade. 9. For the number of those killed whose consciousnesses now lived within this metal. ZSHK 5451, gold rank. Liang Wei stood at the bottom of the ravine amid the debris of the bridge and 10 bodies, covered in blood, his own and others, with the ZSHK 5451 sword in his hands. A man stood on the cliff above the ravine. Liang Wei didn't notice him right away. An old man, bent over in a faded cloak, gray hair tied back in a bun with a rope, wrinkles on his face as deep as cracks in stone. The old man was looking down, at Liang Wei, at the sword, at the bodies. His lips were moving. He was whispering one word over and over. Impossible. 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 2 fingers were missing from his right hand, the index and middle fingers, the mark of an exiled blacksmith of the Liao clan. Old Man Ho, a former elder, exiled 30 years ago. He was the first to find Liang Wei. Old Man Ho made his way down the slope slowly. His knees creaked. His breathing was heavy, but his hands did not tremble. A blacksmith's hands do not tremble, even at 70. He stopped 5 paces from Liang Wei and looked at the blade of 9 names. For a long time. A minute. 2. Then he looked at Liang Wei, at his blood-soaked face, at his pierced shoulder from which dark fluid oozed, at the apprentice's tattered robe, brown with dried blood. Old Man Ho said that Liang Wei needed a healer, not a spectator. Liang Wei replied that a healer cost money, but a spectator was free. The old man grunted. Then he took a leather pouch from his belt and tossed it at Liang Wei's feet. Inside were dried herbs, mountain herbs, wild ones, the kind that grow above the clouds, where the air is thin and pure. Liang Wei knew these herbs. The Liao clan blacksmiths used them to treat burns after working at the forge. He picked up the pouch, chewed a handful. Bitterness flooded his mouth. He pressed the chewed mass to his shoulder. The pain flared up and subsided. The bleeding stopped. Not instantly, but quickly. Old Man Ho watched. Then he sat down on a rock. His knees creaked again. He said that 30 years ago, Liao Zhenhua, the clan chief, was young and hot-headed, that he had just taken the post after his father's death and first and foremost had purged everyone who might challenge his authority. 7 elders were executed. 3 were exiled. Old Man Ho was one of the 3. They cut off 2 fingers of his right hand, the index and middle fingers, the fingers a blacksmith uses to hold the tongs. Without them, it's impossible to forge. Or so it was believed. The old man raised his right hand. He showed the stumps. Then, with his left hand, he pulled a small hammer from his bosom, a jeweler's hammer. A worn-away clan symbol on the handle. He said he'd been forging with his left hand for 30 years. Small things. Nails, needles, fishing hooks, iron junk for the villagers. Strength no higher than 20. But the hands remember. Hands always remember. Liang Wei listened. He didn't interrupt. Old Man Ho spoke evenly, without self-pity. Facts, numbers, names. He said he lived in the mountains, a 4-day journey to the south, in a cave that had once been a mountain hermit's workshop. There was an anvil there, a real one, made of black stone, old but sturdy. There is a bellows. There are tools, primitive but functional. Liang Wei asked why the old man was telling him this. Old Man Ho looked at the blade of 9 names, then at the bridge debris, then at the 10 bodies. He said he had waited 30 years for a man who could do what he could not, that he was too old and too crippled, but that he knew things no living blacksmith knew. The rituals of ancient forging forms, the techniques of the First Age, records he had taken from the clan archives on the night of the exile. He hid them in his clothes, in the lining, smuggled them through the gates, kept them for 30 years. Liang Wei was silent. The seal in his chest pulsed steadily. Warmth, not heat, a calm warmth, as if it recognized something in the old man's words. He asked which rituals exactly. Old Man Ho listed them: the 3 fires forging, the soul imprisonment rite, the 7-fold tempering method, and one ritual that had no name and was written in symbols the old man could not read. Liang Wei froze. The 7-fold tempering method. He knew that name, not from the clan's textbooks, from the seal, from the inheritance. The knowledge came like a flash. 7-fold tempering is an ancient technique of cascading forging, remelting an artifact 7 times, with the addition of new material each time, a 15% bonus for each remelt, up to the 7th. After the 7th, the bonus resets to 0. But if the correct ritual is used, the 7th reforging yields not 0, but a leap, a doubling. Liang Wei realized 2 things. First, Old Man Ho hadn't ended up here by accident. He had been watching. The clan patrols, the roads. He had been waiting, and he saw. Second, the old man's ancient records aren't just knowledge. They're the key to the seal's maximum effectiveness. The heart of the primordial blacksmith worked on instinct. Liang Wei forged like a savage, with raw strength, without technique, without ritual. It's like striking red-hot metal with a hammer without knowing where to strike. The result would be there, but not the best one. He stood up. He looked at the old man. He said he would go with him, but not as a student, as a partner. Old Man Ho had no objection. They left the ravine before noon. Liang Wei walked slowly. His wounds slowed him down. The old man walked even slower. Age, 4 days' journey south. They walked along mountain trails, far from roads, far from patrols, far from people. On the 2nd day of the journey, Liang Wei heard the whisper for the first time. Night. They stopped in a ravine beneath an overhanging rock. Old Man Ho was snoring. Liang Wei lay there and stared into the darkness. The blade of 9 names lay nearby. And that was when the voices came. Not from outside, from within, from the blade. Quiet, like the rustling of leaves, but the words were distinct. One voice said it was cold. Another asked where he was. The third one just screamed, soundlessly, but Liang Wei heard the scream. 9 voices, 9 shards of consciousness, 9 dead whose life energy was now the blade in his hand. The ZSHK of artifacts within the radius of Liang Wei's aura, 5,451. Still far from the 10,000 threshold. The whisper's clock was not activated. It was just the whisper, a harbinger. Liang Wei closed his eyes. The voices subsided. They did not disappear. They retreated. They waited. He lay in the darkness and thought of his mother, about his sister, about how every day of delay is a day they are held hostage, a day when Zi Hao might decide they are no longer needed. He clenched his fist. His nails dug into his palm. 4 names, 10 culprits. But before he could get to them, he needed power. More, much more. ZSK 5451 is gold. That would be enough to kill Zi Hao with his pitiful 380 stars. but it wouldn't be enough to even get close to the clan head. Liao Zhenhua. 12,000 ZSK plus a rank 18,000 spear. Total 30,000. Jade. To kill him, Liang Wei needs an arsenal of at least 35,000. And to survive after that, he needs twice as much. Because behind the clan head stand 8 other clans, and each of them will send their people. Not out of loyalty, out of fear. If a single lowly apprentice can kill a clan head, then any apprentice can kill any head. A precedent. They won't allow it. On the 3rd day of their journey, they came upon a mountain stream. Liang Wei drank the icy water and washed his wounds. His shoulder was healing, slowly. Without chi channels, the body heals like that of an ordinary person. It takes a long time. It's painful. Old man He sat nearby, sharpening his jeweler's hammer on a river stone. He spoke up. He said there were rumors circulating in the Liao clan that Zihao had presented a blade at the certification and received the status of a full-fledged blacksmith, that his ZSK had been recorded as 427 after the certification, that the head had personally congratulated his nephew, that no one had asked how a talentless fool with 3 failures had suddenly forged a record-breaking blade. No one asked because questions in the Liao clan cost 2 fingers, or a head. Liang Wei listened and remained silent. His face didn't change. Neither did his eyes, but the knuckles of his right hand, which rested on the hilt of the 9 names blade, had turned white. Old man He continued. He said there was something else. Zihao had applied to participate in the preliminary selection for the 9 Forges tournament. The tournament takes place once every 3 years. It's open to anyone with a gold rank artifact or higher. Zihao, with the stolen ZSHK 427 blade, didn't meet the threshold, but his family was preparing a new artifact for him. The old man didn't know exactly what kind, but rumors spoke of a rank of 2,000, minimum gold. Zihao, who is being leveled up by his relatives. ZSHK 380 would jump to 2,400 if given a rank 2,000 artifact. That would be enough to pass the selection. Liang Wei stood up. Water dripped from his hands. He looked south, at the mountains, then at the blade of 9 names. ZSHK 5451, gold rank, already enough for the tournament. He turned to the old man. He said they needed to hurry, that he needed ancient records. He needed a ritual. He needed an anvil. The old man asked why the rush. Liang Wei answered simply. He said that Zihao was going to the tournament with someone else's blade and someone else's power, and that he, Liang Wei, would come to that same tournament with his own. On the 4th day, they reached the cave. The entrance was hidden behind a waterfall, a narrow passage in the rock. Then it widened, then a hall, large, dry, with a high ceiling from which stone growths resembling teeth hung down. In the center was an anvil, black, made of a stone Liang Wei didn't recognize. Not iron, not granite, something ancient. A surge of energy flared in his chest at the sight of the anvil. Heat surged from his heart to his palms. Liang Wei stepped forward. He touched the surface with his hand. The stone was warm, alive, pulsing in time with his heart. Old man He stood to the side and watched. His eyes were wide open. He said the anvil was cold, that it had always been cold. He had worked on it for 30 years, and the stone had always been like ice. Liang Wei withdrew his hand. The anvil continued to pulse. Just for him. The heart of the primordial blacksmith had recognized its tool. He turned to the old man. He said it was time to begin. Where were the records? Old man He took a rolled-up leather case from a hiding place in the wall. He unrolled it. Inside were 4 scrolls, yellowed with age, fragile. The symbols on them were small and clear. 3 scrolls were in the language of the Liao clan. The 4th was in a language the old man did not know. Liang Wei took the 4th. The seal responded. The symbols on the scroll flashed blue and rearranged themselves. Liang Wei read. His face remained unchanged, but his hands trembled. He said that this was not merely a ritual. It was an instruction for the heart of the primordial blacksmith, written 3,000 years ago, written by his ancestor. Old Man Ho sat down on a rock. He looked heavy. His face turned gray. He whispered that he had stolen this scroll from the clan head's sealed vault, that the lock on the vault was jade rank, that it had taken him 2 years to break it open, and that clan head Liao Zhenhua still didn't know the scroll was missing, because the clan head couldn't read it. No one could, except the heir of the primordial blacksmith. Liang Wei held the scroll and felt the seal in his chest burn brighter than ever. Instructions, complete, detailed, every aspect of the seal, every method, every limitation. And at the end, a single line that sent a chill down Liang Wei's spine. The line stated that the bearer of the heart of the primordial blacksmith is the only being capable of destroying the living artifacts, the foundations upon which the 9 clans stand, and that the 9 heads of the clans knew this. They had always known. For 3,000 years, they had hunted the line of the primordial fire. They had cut off branch after branch, generation after generation. Liang Wei placed the scroll on the anvil. The stone accepted it, absorbed it. The symbols appeared on the surface of the anvil like a tattoo, forever. He looked at the old man, then at the cave, then at his own hands. Hands that yesterday were those of an exiled apprentice, and today had become the hands of the last blacksmith of an ancient lineage that the whole world had been hunting for 3,000 years. Somewhere far away in the capital, the Liao clan didn't even know that the hunt had turned upside down, that the prey had become the hunter. Liang Wei placed the blade of 9 names on the anvil next to the scroll. ZSHK5451. Gold. Not enough. Catastrophically insufficient. But this was only the 2nd reforging. The 7th was still far off, and with each reforging, the blade would grow. And after the 7th, if the ritual was correct, it would double in power. He raised his eyes to the cave ceiling, to the stone growths resembling teeth, and said with his lips alone, "Zihao, soon." Liang Wei hadn't slept for 3 days. The scroll on the anvil glowed dimly and evenly. The symbols appeared one after another. The seal in his chest read them and transmitted the knowledge directly to his brain. Not in words, in images, in sensations, as if someone were placing tools in his hands that he had never held before, and his hands themselves knew what to do. Old Man Ho brought food, rice, dried meat, mountain water. He set it by the entrance and left. He didn't interfere. He saw Liang Wei's eyes. The same fire burned in them as burned in the anvil. At the end of the 3rd day, Liang Wei stood up. He walked over to the forge. He stoked the fire. Old Man Ho appeared in the cave's opening and froze. Liang Wei placed the blade of 9 names on the anvil. ZSHK5451. Gold rank. 2nd artifact, 2nd form. The scroll gave him the understanding he had been lacking. Cascade forging is not simply remelting with the addition of the reserve. It is a dialogue with the consciousnesses within the metal. 9 shards, 9 voices. Each of them remembers who they were, remembers their ZSHK, remembers the moment of death. During remelting, they must not be suppressed but arranged. Like notes in a chord, if 2 consciousnesses conflict, the metal will crack. If they harmonize, the metal will harden. The 15% bonus isn't a mechanic. It's a reward for proper harmony. Liang Wei placed his palms on the blade. He closed his eyes. 9 voices flared up at once. The gang leader, ZSHK340, evil, stubborn. His consciousness thrashed in the metal like a beast in a cage. 6 rank-and-file mercenaries, frightened, confused. They didn't understand what had happened. Commander Liao Feng, ZSHK680, cold, professional. Even in death, he maintained discipline. His fragment did not flutter. He waited. Liang Wei began to forge, without a hammer, with his palms. The seal transformed his hands into a tool. Heat flowed from his heart through his shoulders, through his elbows, through his wrists, into his fingers. The metal beneath his palms melted and reshaped itself. Liang Wei arranged the consciousnesses, Liao Feng's into the core. His discipline would become the blade's spine, the gang leader on the edge. His fury would become the edge's sharpness. The 6 rank-and-file men into the blade's body. Their fear would become its flexibility. The metal offered no resistance. The metal sang. Old Man Ho stood by the wall and watched. His left hand gripped the jeweler's hammer so tightly that his knuckles turned white. He was witnessing the impossible. A channelless youth was forging with his bare hands on an anvil that had been a lifeless stone for 30 years. The anvil pulsed crimson. The forge burned without fuel. The air in the cave grew hot and heavy. An hour passed. 2. 5. Liang Wei did not stop. Sweat streamed down his face and dripped onto the metal. Each drop sizzled and evaporated. The wound on his shoulder opened. Blood flowed down his arm onto the blade. The blade absorbed it. It did not reject it. It accepted it. By dawn, it was all over. Liang Wei took his hands off the anvil and stepped back. The blade lay on the black stone. The same and yet not the same. A handspan longer. Already lighter. The 9 lines on the blade had deepened and taken on color, reddish, like dried blood. The hilt had changed. It was covered in fine scales of the same black metal. Comfortable, as if cast to fit Liang Wei's hand, because that was exactly what had happened. The stamp revealed a number, ZSHK6268. The 15% bonus from the remelting had worked out perfectly. Old Man Ho approached. He took out his black market scanner. He pointed it at the blade. The crystal flashed. A number. 6268. The old man dropped the scanner. It hit the stone floor and cracked. The old man didn't notice. He was staring at the blade, his lips trembling. He said that in the entire history of the Liao clan, no blacksmith under 30 had ever created a gold rank artifact, that the record belonged to head Liao Zhenhua himself, who had forged his first gold at 28. And Liang Wei was 19, and he had no meridians. Liang Wei raised the blade. He ran his finger along the edge. His finger wasn't cut. The blade recognized its master. It would cut a stranger to the bone at the slightest touch. It would not touch its own. He named it. The Blade of 9 Names. The name remained. The form changed. The essence was the same. 9 lives, 9 deaths, 1 blade. Liang Wei sat down on the floor. Exhaustion hit him all at once. A body without chi channels recovers slowly. 3 days without sleep. Forging with bare hands. An open wound. He closed his eyes and fell asleep before his head touched the stone. Old Man Ho covered him with his cloak. Then he sat down beside him and stayed there until evening, guarding him. Liang Wei woke up in the dark, not on his own. A sound had woken him. Footsteps, outside, behind the waterfall. Several pairs of feet, heavy, in boots. He grabbed his blade and darted to the wall. Old Man Ho was already standing at the entrance, pressed against the rock. Put a finger to his lips. Silence. Then a voice, rough, commanding. Someone had ordered them to set up camp by the waterfall, rest until dawn, then continue the search. Liang Wei crept up to a crack in the wall. He looked out. A detachment had settled by the waterfall. 12 men. Not a patrol. Others. Armor not of the Liao clan. Black. Without symbols. No clan seals. Short swords and throwing knives on their belts. Mercenaries. Professionals. Liang Wei assessed them. The seal suggested approximate numbers. 10 fighters. Average HP between 400 and 600. Silver. Commander. A tall woman with a shaved temple and a scar on her right cheek. ZSHK around 1,200. Also silver, but at the upper threshold, almost gold. And one more, off to the side, sitting on a rock apart from the rest. Young, about 25, broad-shouldered, with 2 swords on his back. His face was calm, confident. ZSHK 4,000, gold rank. Liang Wei clenched his teeth. These weren't random mercenaries. They were hunters. The Hall of 1,000 Blades, a non-clan guild of assassins, silver and gold. Someone hired them. Someone who knew Liang Wei was alive. Old Man Ho touched his shoulder. He whispered that they were looking for Liang Wei, that 3 days ago someone had found the wreckage of a bridge and 10 bodies, that the news had reached the capital, and head Liao Zhenhua had hired the Hall of 1,000 Blades. Liang Wei leaned against the wall. He closed his eyes. He thought. 12 men. The group's total ZSHK was approximately 10,200. The commander was 1,200. The Golden Warrior was 4,000. If he killed them all at maximum conversion, the reserve would grow by approximately 8,500 units. The smelting of the 9-name blade with the current 6,268 plus 8,500 new reserve with a 15% bonus. Total approximately 16,983. Silver. No. Gold. High gold. Close to platinum. The problem is that a gold fighter with 4,000 ZSHK will kill him in open combat in 10 seconds. Liang Wei's body is that of an ordinary person. No enhancements. No protection. The Blade of the Nine with a ZSHK of 6,268 partially compensates for this. The artifact grants the owner a portion of its power upon contact. But without channels, Liang Wei receives only a passive bonus. Enhanced strike power, blade durability, not speed, not reflexes. He thought. A minute. 2. 5. Then he opened his eyes. He looked at Old Man Ho. He asked if there was a second exit from the cave. The old man shook his head. One entrance, one exit, through the waterfall, past the 12 assassins. Liang Wei looked at the anvil, at the scroll embedded in the stone, at the symbols that glowed dimly in the darkness. The scroll described dozens of techniques. One of them was called forging living metal, not the creation of an artifact. Applying metal to the body, temporary, painful, but effective. A coating of artifact metal on the arms and legs increases the body's strength to the level of an artifact. It lasts 1 hour. After that, the metal is rejected. Scorched skin, torn muscles, a week of immobility. But for 1 hour, the body will be as strong as a golden artifact. Liang Wei placed the blade on the anvil. He looked at his hands, then at the cave entrance. Behind the waterfall sat 12 assassins who didn't know their target was 20 meters away. He told Old Man Ho not to come out, no matter what he heard. The old man opened his mouth to object. Liang Wei looked at him. The old man shut his mouth. Liang Wei activated the technique. The seal flared up. The 9-name blade began to flow. Black metal spread across the anvil like water. Then it crept up Liang Wei's arms. The pain came instantly, as if his arms had been thrust into a blacksmith's forge. The metal covered his skin in a layer thinner than paper, black, shiny, from his fingertips to his, then lower, his feet, his shins up to his knees. The metal tightened like a second skin. Liang Wei clenched his teeth.
He didn't scream. He was used to the pain. 4 years by the forge, burned out meridians, a spear in his shoulder. Pain, an old acquaintance. He raised his hands, black, shiny, hard as a golden artifact. The 9-names blade had shrunk. Some of the metal had gone into the coating. The blade's ZSHK had dropped to 4,100. But his body had received a bonus, not a permanent one. 1 hour. Liang Wei clenched his fist. The stone wall cracked from the impact. He smirked. For the first time in a long while, the smirk reached his eyes. Then he turned toward the waterfall, stepped into the water, walked through the stream, emerged into the night air, wet. His black hands glistened in the moonlight. The blade in his right hand shortened, vicious. 12 assassins by the fire. The sentry saw him first. He opened his mouth. He didn't have time to scream. Liang Wei was already there. The black fist of his left hand struck the sentry in the temple. His head jerked. His neck snapped. ZSHK 420. Instant death. 252 units to the reserve. The body fell. The second killer turned at the sound. The blade entered his chest up to the hilt. ZSHK 510. Slow death. 478 units. Alarm. A scream. The 10 remaining men leapt to their feet, weapons in hand, eyes search for the enemy. Liang Wei stood between them and the waterfall, wet, in a torn robe. Black hands and feet gleam. The blade is covered in blood. 2 bodies at his feet. The commander with the shaved temple assessed the situation in a second. She shouted, "Form a line! 5 forward! 3 to the flanks!" The golden warrior remained seated on the rock, watching, not yet joining the fray. Did not deem it necessary. 1 hour. Liang Wei stepped into formation. 5 attacked simultaneously, coordinated. 2 with swords straight ahead, 1 with knives on the left, 2 with spears on the right. Silver. Average ZSHK 500. Fast. Trained. Liang Wei didn't block. He stepped forward to meet the swordsman, between the blades, where the strike loses its force because there's no wind-up. Both swords slid across the black metal on his forearms. Sparks. The blades didn't pierce the coating. A golden artifact against silver weapons. Liang Wei struck the swordsman on the right in the jaw with his elbow. A crunch. The swordsman flew 3 meters and fell motionless. He jabbed the tip of his blade into the left swordsman's throat. Precise. No wind-up. Blacksmith's precision. The knife wielder on the left flung 3 knives in a fan. 2 bounced off the coating on his ribs. The third slid across his neck, leaving a shallow cut. The neck is unprotected. A vulnerability. Liang Wei took note. The spearmen struck from both sides. Liang Wei crouched. Both spearheads passed over his head and clashed with each other. The clang of metal. Liang Wei rose within their range. He grabbed the left spear by the black-handled hand. He yanked it toward him. The spearman didn't let go of the shaft and flew forward. Liang Wei met him with his forehead. The second spearman swung again. Liang Wei's blade severed the spear shaft in half. 4,100 ZSHK against a wooden shaft. No chance. The spearman was left holding a stump. For a second. Then the blade pierced him between the ribs.
ZSHK 460, a slow death. 430 units to the reserve, 6 seconds, 4 killed or incapacitated. The 6 remaining foot soldiers and the commander regrouped. The Golden Warrior was still sitting on the rock, watching. His eyes grew alert. He was no longer bored. The commander attacked. ZSHK 1200, upper silver. The difference from the privates was staggering.
Her sword moved twice as fast. Liang Wei parried the first strike, the second. He missed the third. The blade sliced across his left thigh. No armor, above the knee. Blood. A deep cut. His leg buckled. Liang Wei fell to one knee. The commander swung for the final blow. Liang Wei threw a handful of dirt in her face. A dirty trick. Unworthy of a blacksmith. Worthy of a survivor. The dirt got in her eyes. The commander flinched for a second. Liang Wei got up. He drove the blade into her stomach, twisted it, pulled it out. He thrust it in again, higher, between the ribs. The commander looked at him. Her eyes were clear. The dirt no longer obstructed her vision. She saw her killer, young, channelless, in a tattered robe, with black hands, with a blade in her chest. She tried to raise her sword. She couldn't. Her hand wouldn't obey her. She fell. ZSHK 1200, a slow death. 1,128 units. The reserve grew. The rank and file wavered. 4 remained. They had seen how in a minute this channelless cripple had killed their commander and half the squad. 1 ran. Liang Wei didn't chase him. The other 3 attacked. Desperation. No coordination. Every man for himself. Liang Wei killed them in 20 seconds. Not pretty. Dirty. Effective. 1 blow to the throat. 1 to the back. 1 to the heart. ZSHK 480. 390. 550. The reserve grew by the second. The fugitive. Liang Wei let him go. Let him run. Let him tell the tale. The news will reach the capital. A disowned apprentice destroyed the Thousand Blades Hall's squad. Let them know. Let them fear. Let them send more. He remained golden. The young dual sword fighter finally rose from the rock, slowly, without haste. He stretched. He cracked his neck. He drew his swords from behind his back. 2 long, straight blades, a pair, each with a ZSHK of about 1,500, silver, plus his personal ZSHK of 4,000. Total, 5,500, against Liang Wei, with a blade boasting 4,100 HP and a coating that would disappear in 40 minutes. The Golden Fighter introduced himself. Tao Hei, Black Tao, a mercenary, not clan-affiliated, free agent. He said the Hall of 1,000 Blades paid him 300 gold liang for the head of a channelless apprentice. That he took the job because he thought it would be boring. That he was wrong. Liang Wei didn't answer. His leg was bleeding. His shoulder ached. The armor on his arms and legs was covered in fine cracks. The metal was rejecting him prematurely. Not an hour, 40 minutes, maybe less. The fight with the commander had taken too much out of him. Tao Heizi attacked. A 4,000 ZSK is gold rank. Speed, strength, reflexes. Everything was a notch above silver. The 2 swords moved like a single stream of steel. Liang Wei parried the first. The second slashed across his ribs. The armor held, but the crack widened. The third strike landed on his unprotected thigh. The wound grew deeper. Blood spurted. Liang Wei retreated. Tao Heizi wouldn't let him. He stepped in after him. The 4th strike. The 5th. The 6th. Liang Wei blocked, parried, dodged, but every strike knocked him back. The difference in strength was too great. A body without channels can't hold out, even with the cover. Liang Wei calculated. Time, cover, reserve. The cover would last another 20 minutes. The reserve after killing the squad was roughly 5,800.
If he added 4,100 to his current blade, plus 5,800 with the reforging bonus, it would come to 11,385. Upper gold, close to platinum. But to do that, he needs to kill Tao Heizi. And Tao Heizi is faster, stronger,
more experienced. Liang Wei changed his tactics. He stopped retreating. He stopped blocking. He started letting the blows land. On purpose. The armor on his arms held. It cracked at the ribs but held. He took the blows and stepped forward. Closer, even closer. Tao Heizi frowned. He struck. The blades cut into the black metal on Liang Wei's arms. Sparks, cracks. But Liang Wei didn't stop. He moved forward. Like a wall, like an anvil. Tao Heizi took a step back. For the first time, Liang Wei struck, not with a blade, with a fist covered in black artifact metal, to the chest. Tao Heizi crossed his swords in front of him. Block! The fist struck the cross of the blades. Both swords cracked. 1,500 ZSHK each, against a blow with a force of 4,100 ZSHK. The swords held, but Tao Heizi was sent flying 5 meters. He hit his back against the rock. He exhaled. He stood up, his eyes wild. He understood. The channelless cripple was striking with the power of a golden artifact. Not skill, not chi, metal on his hands. Tao Heizi attacked again, furiously, without calculation. Liang Wei met him, blow for blow, fist against sword, blade against blade. The coating cracked. Shards of black metal flew off with every collision. Time was running out. 15 minutes. 10. Liang Wei counted. He waited for the moment. Tao Heizi swung both swords for a chopping strike from above. He opened himself up. For a second. Liang Wei didn't strike with the blade. He threw it. The 9 names blade flew straight, like a spear. ZSHK 4100. A gold rank artifact flying with the power of a gold rank artifact. Tao Heizi managed to dodge. The blade passed a hair's breadth from his throat, but Liang Wei was already within striking distance. Unarmed, bare black hands. His left hand grabbed the blade of Tao Heizi's right sword. The coating held. His right hand struck the elbow joint. A crack. Tao Heizi dropped his sword. He shouted. With his left sword, he stabbed Liang Wei in the side. The blade went in 3 centimeters and stopped. The armor on his ribs. The final layer, thin as paper. But it was enough. Liang Wei grabbed his left hand, twisted his wrist. The second sword fell. Tao Heizi stood unarmed, with one broken arm, before a channelless cripple who also had no weapon. Liang Wei could have killed him. The reserve would have increased by 3,760 units. 4,000 horsepower with a slow death. Good loot. He didn't kill him. Liang Wei looked at Tao Heizi, into his eyes. He said he was offering a deal. Life in exchange for service. A magical oath. Unbreakable. Tao Heizi until the end of his days or until his debt was paid. Tao Heizi looked at him. His broken arm hung limply. Blood flowed from the gash on his forehead. He asked what would happen if he refused. Liang Wei replied that then he would become part of the blade and serve forever, feeling every blow. Tao Heizi was silent for 10 seconds. Then he nodded. He accepted. The oath rang out in the night air. The seal was set. The coating on Liang Wei's hands burst and crumbled into black ash. Time was up. Beneath the ash, his skin was red and swollen. Burns. His muscles cramped. The pain hit him all at once. Liang Wei collapsed to his knees. Tao Heizi looked down from above at the man he had just sworn to serve. Channelless, wounded, on his knees, but alive. Tao Heizi picked up the blade of 9 names from the ground with his uninjured hand and held it out to Liang Wei, hilt first. Liang Wei took it. 10 bodies,
1 prisoner. Reserve 5,800. He looked east.
Beyond the mountains lay the capital. There were 4 names, too far away for now, but closer than yesterday. For a week, Liang Wei could not stand. Burns from living metal covered his hands from fingers to elbows and his legs from feet to knees. His skin had burst into blisters. The muscles beneath had charred like meat on coals. Every movement was a flash of pain that made his vision go dark. Old Man Ho treated him. Mountain herbs, compresses of ice-cold water, ointments he had been brewing for 30 years for his own stumps. Tao He sat at the entrance to the cave, his hand in a splint made of 2 sticks and a strip of leather. He was silent. He watched the waterfall. He was thinking about something of his own. The oath held him tighter than any chain. Liang Wei lay on the stone floor and read a scroll. Not with his eyes, with his seal. The symbols on the anvil glowed and transmitted knowledge directly into his consciousness. He studied. Every hour, every minute. His body didn't move, but his brain was working. On the 3rd day, Liang Wei called for Tao He. He entered, sat down beside him. Liang Wei asked what he knew about the Hall of 1,000 Blades. Tao He told him, "The Hall is a guild of hired assassins, not clan-affiliated, independent. Headquarters in the city of He Shui, on the border between the territories of the Liao and Bai clans. 47 fighters. Average combat power, CP, ranges from 600 to 1,200. 4 elite members. CP ranges from 2,000 to 4,000. The Hall's leader is a man nicknamed the Thousand-Faced One. His CP is unknown, but rumors say it's over 6,000. Gold tier, maybe higher. The Hall takes orders from clans. Assassinations, kidnappings, cleanups, high prices. Impeccable reputation. Not a single unfulfilled contract in 30 years. Until today." Liang Wei smirked. The first unfulfilled contract. His contract. He asked how much his head was worth. Tao He said 500 gold liang for a confirmed kill, plus a 200 gold bonus for the blade if Liang Wei had forged something after his exile. 700 gold. Serious money. The head of the Liao clan wasn't skimping. Liang Wei asked if Zhao would come again. Tao He nodded. The contract isn't closed. One of the fighters escaped. He'll report that the squad has been wiped out. Zhao will send a second one. More, stronger, elite. Time is short. Liang Wei closed his eyes. Reserve, 5,800. 9 names, Blade ZSHK, 4,100. If I reforge it now, adding the entire reserve, 4,100 plus 5,800 equals 9,900, multiplied by 1.15. That comes to 11,385. 3rd remelt. Top tier gold. Good, but not enough. If the Hall sends elite fighters with ZSHK 2,000 or higher, we'll need more, much more. He opened his eyes. He looked at Tao He. He said he wouldn't wait for the Hall to come. He would go to them. Tao He blinked. He asked again. Liang Wei repeated himself. He would go to He Shui, to the headquarters of the Hall of 1,000 Blades, and he'll wipe them all out. 47 fighters, 4 elite ones, the leader, all of them. Tao He looked at the channelless cripple with burns on his arms and legs, who was lying on the stone floor and couldn't get up. And he listened as this cripple planned to destroy a combat guild with a total ZSHK exceeding 50,000. Tao He said that was madness. Liang Wei replied that madness was stealing a blade from an apprentice. This was math. By the end of the week, he was back on his feet. The burns had healed. Not completely. Scars remained. His hands were covered in thin pink skin over the scars. His fingers obeyed him. That was the main thing. He walked over to the anvil. He placed the blade down. He closed his eyes. Reserve 5,800. Conversion.
remelting. Third. The black metal flowed. It changed. It grew. The 9 lines on the blade gained depth. Each turned into a groove. Energy flowed through them, invisible but palpable. The blade grew heavier, longer. The hilt grew and took the shape of an open palm. 5 fingers of black metal gripped the base of the blade. The seal revealed a number, ZSHK 11385. Upper gold. Platinum. Threshold 8,000. He had crossed it. The blade of 9 names was now a platinum artifact. Old Man Ho sat against the wall. Tao Hei stood at the entrance. Both were looking at the blade. Both were silent. The number 11,385 hung in the air between them like a verdict. Liang Wei raised the blade. It was heavy, but his hand held it. No meridians. His advantage. An ordinary cultivator would explode from an artifact 2 ranks higher than their own. A bronze cultivator cannot handle gold. A silver cultivator cannot handle platinum. But Liang Wei has no meridians. No meridians, no backflow.
No backflow, no overload. He can wield any artifact, of any rank, no restrictions. They left the cave 3 days later. Liang Wei, Tao Hei, Old Man Ho. The old man didn't want to go. He said he was too old, that he'd be a burden. Liang Wei said he needed a blacksmith capable of appraising others' artifacts, and that 2 living eyes are better than 1. The old man sighed and went along. Hei Shui, 7 days' journey to the east, a border town, neutral territory. Neither the Liao clan nor the Bai clan fully controls it. Therefore, it is a haven for everything that doesn't fit into the clan order. Mercenaries, smugglers, the black market for artifacts. The Hall of 1,000 Blades. On the 3rd day of their journey, they met Qin Shuang. Liang Wei hadn't expected it. She stepped out from behind a tree on the mountain trail, slender, short, 17 years old, short hair, eyes dark and empty as the bottom of a well, a leather map case on her back, no weapons or scanner on her belt, just an inkwell and a brush. Tao Hei instantly stepped forward. He put his hand on his sword, his good hand, his left. His right was in a splint. Qin Shuang didn't flinch. She looked at Liang Wei. Not at the blade, not at his companions, at his face, and said she was looking for him, that she'd been following his trail for 3 days, that she'd found the wreckage of a bridge and 10 bodies, found a camp by a waterfall and 10 more bodies, read the tracks, she counted them, and moved on. Liang Wei asked who she was. Qin Shuang said her father's name was Qin Yuan, a blacksmith cartographer, not clan-affiliated, independent. ZSHK 210. He made maps, not paper ones, metal ones, thin silver plates with embossed relief, maps of gorges, mountain passes, secret trails. The Liao clan had been buying his maps for 10 years. Then they decided that a cartographer who knew all the secret trails of the province was a threat. Liao Feng, the very same Liao Feng whom Liang Wei had killed on the bridge, came to them at night with 10 soldiers. Her father was hacked to death in his sleep. Her mother was burned along with the house. Qin Shuang survived because she wasn't home. She was in the mountains, mapping a new route. She returned to the ruins. She was 14. She lived in the mountains for 3 years, alone, using her father's maps. She knew every trail, every pass, every cave, every hiding place. She waited. She didn't know for what. Then she heard rumors, whispers. The struck-down apprentice. He wiped out a patrol. He killed Liao Feng, the very one. Qin Shuang had not come for protection, not for friendship.
She had come for revenge. Her revenge coincided with his. That was enough. Liang Wei looked at her, 17 years old, slender as a reed, unarmed, without chi, without a clan, with eyes in which the same flame burned as in his own. He nodded. Qin Shuang took a map out of a tube, unfolded it on a rock, a metal plate the size of a palm, thin, with an engraved relief, the city of Heishui, every street, every house, every alley, and separately, the headquarters of the Hall of 1,000 Blades, the layout, entrances, exits, guard posts, patrol routes. Qin Shuang said her father had made the map of the hall at the request of the Liao clan, 8 years ago. The clan wanted to know the layout in case the hall got out of control. Her father made 2 copies. He gave one away. He hid the second. Liang Wei studied the map. Every corridor, every room, every vulnerable spot. 4 entrances, 2 exits, barracks on the first level, the armory on the second,
The head's chambers on the third, the basement with the prison and the training hall. He looked up. He looked at Qin Shuang, then at Tao Heizi, then at Old Man Ho. 3 of them, plus himself. 4 against 47. He said that would be enough. The city of Heishui stood on the banks of the Black River. The water carried mineral sediment from the mountains and was as dark as ink. The city smelled of fish and iron and money. The market stalls stretched from the city gates to the port. Half the goods were legal, the other half were not. Here they sold artifacts without clan seals, unregistered weapons, information with no guarantees. They entered at sunset, separately. Liang Wei first, in a new cloak bought from a roadside merchant with his last copper coins. The blade of 9 names hidden beneath the cloak. ZSHK 11385, platinum on a vagabond's belt. Tao Heizi second. His hand had healed enough to remove the bandage. 2 swords on his back. A familiar face in a familiar city. A former hall fighter. He was known here. Old Man Ho third. A stooped old man in a faded cloak. No one paid him any mind. Qin Shuang was last. A shadow among shadows. She knew this city like the back of her hand. They met in a tavern by the harbor, the upper room. The door was closed. Qin Shuang spread the map out on the table. Liang Wei listened. Qin Shuang spoke quietly and quickly. The headquarters of the Hall of 1,000 Blades, a former warehouse complex on the eastern edge of the city. 4 buildings connected by covered walkways. The walls are fortified, not with artifacts, with stone and metal. Clan artifact defenses are too expensive for the guild. That is the first advantage. Physical defense, not magical. Guard posts, 4 on the outside, 2 fighters at each, around the clock. Internal patrol, 6 people. They rotate every 4 hours. Barracks, first floor of the main building, 30 fighters. They sleep at night. Not all of them. Usually 10 to 15 are on duty. The rest are out in the city. They drink. They have fun. Headquarters comes alive during the day, half empty at night. Elite fighters, 4 of them. Separate rooms on the second floor. ZSHK from 2,000 to 4,000. They don't sleep in the barracks. They're on their own. They come and go as they please. The head of the hall, the 1,000-faced one. 3rd floor, 1. Always 1. ZSHK, according to rumors, 6,000 and above. No one has seen his true face. Tao Heizi added, he said that the 1,000-faced one never leaves the 3rd floor. Never. He takes orders through intermediaries. He only sees the fighters upon their entry and upon their death. He said that in 3 years in the hall, he had seen the 1,000-faced one twice. Both times, he was wearing a mask, and a different voice, and a different height, as if it were a different person each time. Liang Wei listened. He looked at the map. He ran his finger along the corridors. He calculated. The optimal time for the attack, 3 o'clock in the morning. The outer guards are tired. The inner patrol has just changed shifts.
The barracks are half empty. The elite fighters are asleep or absent. The man of 1,000 faces is on the 3rd floor. The plan. Tao Heizi enters through the main gate. His face is familiar to the guards. He's returning from a mission. It's happened before. The guards will let him through. He'll neutralize the outer post at the main entrance, quietly. Qin Shuang through the sewers.
Her father's map shows a drainage tunnel leading from the river directly under the building. The exit is in the basement. From the basement, a staircase leads to the 1st floor. She is not a fighter. She has one task: to open the bolt on the emergency exit on the east side. For Liang Wei. Liang Wei enters through the east exit with a blade. He starts with the barracks. 30 fighters, asleep. Not all of them, but many. Every one killed means points for the reserve. Every reserve point means the artifact grows during the next reforging. Old Man Ho stays outside, watching. If anything goes wrong, he leaves. Someone has to survive to tell the tale. Tao Heizi objected. He said the elite fighters were a problem. If even one wakes up and raises the alarm, the entire hall will be on its feet in a minute. And 4 elites at once, that's a combined ZSHK 12,000. Plus the 1,000-faced one, plus the rank and file. Liang Wei nodded. He said the elite wouldn't wake up. Tao Heizi asked why. Liang Wei turned to Old Man Ho. The old man sighed. He pulled a small pouch from his bosom. He untied it. Inside was a gray powder, dull, odorless, sleep dust, an old blacksmith's recipe. A byproduct of smelting certain ores, harmless to ordinary people, but cultivators are sensitive. The powder blocks qi circulation for 2 hours. The cultivator falls asleep, doesn't wake up until the qi is restored. The higher the ZSHK, the longer they sleep. Silver, 1 hour. Gold, 2. Tao Heizi stared at the little bag. He asked where it came from. Old Man Ho said that 30 years in the mountains meant plenty of free time. Liang Wei looked at the plan. Ventilation. Headquarters is an old warehouse complex. Ventilation shafts run through all floors, through the barracks, through the elite quarters, through the 3rd floor. Qin Shuang makes his way from the basement to the ventilation shaft. He sprays the powder, waits half an hour, then opens the east exit. Liang Wei enters. Everything is quiet. Everyone is asleep. Tao Heizi was silent. He was thinking. Then he said that the 1,000-faced one might be resistant. If his ZSHK is really above 6,000, the sleep dust might not work completely. Liang Wei replied that the 1,000-faced one was his, personally. They waited for 2 days. Qin Shuang observed the headquarters. She counted those coming and going. She took notes. By the end of the 2nd day, the picture was clear. At night, between 15 and 20 fighters remain at headquarters. 4 elite, the 1,000-faced one. 2 elite fighters do not spend the night at headquarters. They spend their nights in the city. They return in the morning. This means that at the time of the attack, there will be 2 elite fighters inside instead of 4. ZSHK, approximately 2,200 and 3,100, plus the 1,000-faced one, plus 15 rank-and-file soldiers, a total of about 22,000. Against Liang Wei with a ZSHK of 11,385 and Tao Heizi with a ZSHK of 4,000. That makes 15,385 on their side. Not a good bet. But the dust will even things out. A sleeping enemy is a dead enemy. 3rd night, 3rd hour. Tao Heizi approached the main gate. The guard recognized him, nodded, said they thought he'd kicked the bucket on the mission. Tao Heizi smiled. He said he almost had. The guard turned to log his return in the logbook. Tao Heizi struck him at the base of the skull with the hilt of his sword. Silent. The body slumped. A second guard opened his mouth. Tao Heizi struck again. 2 bodies at the gate, alive, unconscious. Liang Wei said not to kill at the entrance. Corpses would attract flies, and the noise would draw attention. Qin Shuang entered the drainage tunnel 2 hours earlier. Small, skinny. The tunnel was narrow. She squeezed between the walls and the filtration grates. Water up to her knees. Cold. Black. 30 minutes to the basement. The basement is dark. Empty. Prison cells. All open. All empty. A staircase leading up. A ventilation shaft to the right of the staircase. A grate held by 2 bolts. Qin Shuang unscrewed it with her fingers. The bolts were rusty. They gave way. She poured the gray powder into the shaft. She took a deep breath. The powder was carried upward, through the first floor, through the second, through the third. Then Qin Shuang sat down in the basement and waited. Half an hour. The silence above her head became absolute. No footsteps, no voices, no creaking. She climbed the stairs. First floor, barracks. The door is open. Bodies inside. Not dead, asleep. 14 people on cots. 3 on the floor. They'd fallen asleep. 1 at the table, face down in a bowl of uneaten rice. Qin Shuang walked past them, toward the east exit. The bolt, heavy, metal. She couldn't budge it. Too heavy for a 17-year-old girl without cultivation. She braced her back against the wall and pushed with both feet. The bolt creaked and gave way. The door opened. Liang Wei stood behind it, the 9 names blade in his hand, eyes dark as the waters of He Shui. He entered. The barracks reeked of sweat and cheap wine. 14 bodies on the bunks, 3 on the floor, 1 at the table. 18, all asleep, deeply. Qi blocked, bodies limp, faces relaxed, defenseless. Liang Wei walked between the bunks, blade in hand. ZSHK 11385, a platinum artifact against the sleeping silver ones. No chance, no battle, no glory. He didn't think about glory. He thought about numbers. First, ZSHK 480, 1 blow to the heart, instant death. 288 units to the reserve. Second, ZSHK 610, 1 blow, 366 units. Third, fourth, fifth. The blade fell and rose with the rhythm of a hammer on an anvil. Strike, death, reserve. Strike, death, reserve. The blacksmith works. This is not a fight. This is forging. Material, fire, metal, form. 6th, 7th, 8th. Blood flowed from the beds onto the stone floor. Warm, thick. The air grew heavy, iron heavy. 9th, 10th, 11th. The count had passed 4,000. Liang Wei didn't stop. 12th, 13th, 14th. The one at the table, face down in the rice. ZSHK 720, 1 blow to the back of the head. 432 units. The rice turned red. 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th. The last one on the floor. ZSHK 550. Young, about 20. In his sleep, he clutched the medallion around his neck. A woman's portrait on ceramic. Liang Wei looked, then he struck. 330 units. The barracks are empty. 18 dead. Reserve 9,200. Liang Wei stepped out into the corridor. Blood dripped from the blade onto the stone. A quiet sound. Drip, drip, drip. He climbed the stairs to the 2nd floor. Tao Heizi followed him, silently. 2 swords drawn, his face pale. He knew these people. He ate with them, trained with them, drank with them. Now they were dead. He remained silent and walked on. The oath held. 2nd floor, 4 doors, 2 elite fighters,
2 empty rooms. Qin Shuang said that the 2 elite fighters don't spend the night at headquarters, so there are 2 behind these doors. The first door, Liang Wei pushed it. It opened. Inside was a small room, a cot, a table, a weapon rack with 3 swords, a man on the cot, large, ZSHK 2200, silver, no,
Gold. Lower gold. Asleep. Breathing evenly. The sleep dust is working. Liang Wei approached. He looked at the face. Didn't recognize him. A stranger. 1 strike. The blade of ZSHK 11385 entered his chest up to the hilt. ZSHK 2200. Instant death. 1,320 units. The body twitched and went limp. Second door. Locked. Liang Wei punched it. The lock flew off. The door swung open. The room is larger than the first. Maps on the walls, diagrams, lists of names. A command room. A woman on the cot, young. ZSHK 3100, upper gold. She was lying on her side, breathing slowly, eyes closed. On the bedside table was a scanner and an open notebook. Liang Wei stepped toward the cot and stopped. The woman wasn't asleep. Her eyes were closed, but her breathing had changed. It had become slightly faster, slightly shallower. Liang Wei took a step back. At that very moment, the woman rolled across the bed and threw a knife. Not from her hand, from under the pillow. A spring mechanism. The knife flew at Liang Wei's throat. He ducked his head. The knife whizzed past and embedded itself in the doorframe behind him. The woman was already standing, on her feet, a short sword in her hand. Eyes open, clear, angry. The dust hadn't taken full effect. ZSHK 3100, upper gold. Her body was strong enough to partially resist the chi block. She hadn't been sleeping. She'd been lying there, waiting. She'd heard footsteps in the barracks. She'd heard the blows. She'd been counting and waiting. She attacked, quickly, gold rank. Even with her chi partially blocked, she moved faster than an ordinary person. The sword grazed Liang Wei's face, a cut on his cheek, blood. Liang Wei struck back. The 9 names blade met her sword. ZSHK 11385 versus ZSHK 3100 plus a weapon rating of roughly 1,000. The difference was colossal. Her sword broke on the first clash. The blade sliced through the edge like paper and continued its momentum. It entered her left shoulder, deep, to the bone. The woman didn't scream. She hissed through clenched teeth. She grabbed the shard of the sword with her left hand and jabbed Liang Wei in the side. The shard slid along his rib. Painful, not fatal. Liang Wei pulled the blade out of his shoulder and struck again, in the thigh. The woman fell to one knee. Blood gushed from both wounds. She looked up at Liang Wei from below. She asked who he was. Not his name, his rank. She asked what his rank was. Liang Wei didn't answer. He struck her in the heart. ZSHK 3100. A slow death. She was dying for 30 seconds. She stared at the ceiling. Her lips moved. The seal was draining 2,914 units. The reserve had exceeded 13,400. Tao Heizi stood in the doorway. He watched. His face was gray. He said the woman's name was Huang Lei, that she had been his partner for 2 years, that she had saved his life on a mission in the western provinces. Liang Wei wiped the blade on the sheet. He looked at Tao Heizi. He said nothing. Didn't apologize. Didn't explain. He left the room and headed for the stairs to the 3rd floor. Tao Heizi stood in the doorway for another 10 seconds. Then he followed.
Third floor, one door, heavy, metal with wooden paneling, locked. Liang Wei struck it with his blade. ZSHK 11385. The door split in two. Inside, a room, large, half empty. A table, an armchair, a wardrobe. No one. The bed untouched. The sheets clean. Cold. The thousand-faced one hadn't slept here last night. Or hadn't slept here at all. Liang Wei walked around the room. He opened the wardrobe. Empty. Masks. 7 of them. In a row on the shelf. Different faces. Male, female.
Old, young, fine workmanship, not artifacts, just masks. Under the masks, an envelope, sealed, with the symbol of the Liao clan. Liang Wei broke the seal. Inside was a letter, short, neat handwriting. The text stated that the contract for the head of the channelless apprentice, Liang Wei, was confirmed. The sum had been raised to 1,000 gold liang. A condition had been added. In addition to the murder, the artifact must be seized. Any artifact. One that the apprentice could have created. Signed, Liao Zhenhua, the head of the Liao clan. Liang Wei folded the letter, tucked it into his bosom. Proof. A document signed by the head. A contract to kill a former apprentice. A violation of the 4 imperial laws. Not that the law meant anything to the clan head. But at the tournament of the 9 forges, this document would be worth more to any artifact. The thousand-faced one was gone. He knew, or sensed it, or simply wasn't here. Liang Wei went downstairs. 20 bodies, 2 elite, 18 rank and file. Total reserve, 13,434 units. Plus the current 9 names blade ZSHK 11,385. If remelted now, 4th remelt. 11,385 plus 13,434 equals 24,819. A 15% bonus. Total 28,542. Platinum. High platinum. Almost jade. Liang Wei stood in the middle of the dead hall of 1,000 blades, blood up to his ankles, a blade in his hand, a reserve in his chest. Old Man Ho entered through the main gate. Tao He had brought him. The old man saw the bodies, saw the blood, saw Liang Wei. He didn't look away. He didn't turn pale. He had waited 30 years for this. Qin Shuang stood by the eastern exit, a small figure in a dark cloak, her face expressionless, her eyes dry. Her father had been avenged, partially. Liao Feng was dead. The hall that had hired him was destroyed, but those who had given the order were still alive. Liang Wei approached the anvil in the basement training hall. Rough, cast iron. No match for the black stone in the cave, but functional. He laid the blade down, closed his eyes. The 4th reforging. The metal flowed. 20 new consciousnesses poured into the stream. The blade screamed, not with sound, with vibration. 29 voices inside the metal. The first 9 had already settled in. The new ones thrashed like fish in a net. Liang Wei organized them, harmonized them, put each one in its place. Huang Lei, with a ZSHK 3100, took the second ring. Next to Liao Feng, 2 powerful minds, 2 pillars. An elite fighter with ZSHK 2200 took the 3rd ring. The rest filled the blade's body, layer by layer. The blade changed. It grew, not in length, in depth. The metal became denser, heavier. The lines on the blade multiplied. 29, each as thin as a hair, each pulsed with a dark light. The hilt grew an additional layer. The palm guard became double, 10 fingers instead of 5. They gripped the base of the blade as if alive. ZSHK 28542, platinum rank, upper platinum. Liang Wei opened his eyes. He raised the blade, heavy, but his hand didn't tremble. channelless, his gift and his curse. Tao Heizi stood in the corner of the basement. He looked at the blade. His scanner displayed a number. He swallowed. 28,542. 3 weeks ago, a channelless cripple was holding a rusty nail. Now he's holding an artifact worth more than the entire city of Heishui. Tao Heizi slowly lowered his eyes. He realized that the oath he had taken was not a punishment. It was the best decision of his life. They left the hall before dawn. 20 bodies inside. A letter from clan chief Liao tucked into Liang Wei's bosom. The 9 names. ZSK 28542 blade on his belt. And somewhere in the night, the 1,000-faced one, alive, knowing, waiting. Liang Wei walked down a dark street in Heishui and counted. The reserve is empty. The blade has been remelted. New material is needed for the 5th remelting. New enemies, new numbers. He whispered with his lips alone. The tournament is coming soon. Zihao is coming soon. The head is coming soon. Ahead lay the river at night. The black water carried the reflection of the stars. Liang Wei did not look at the stars. He looked ahead. News of the destruction of the Hall of 1,000 Blades spread throughout the province in 3 days. Merchants passed it on by word of mouth. 20 corpses in the headquarters. Blood on the walls. Not a single artifact touched. Only bodies. Only death. The black market froze. Mercenaries drank in silence and glanced over their shoulders. Liang Wei's name had not yet been spoken aloud, but the whispers were already circulating. Channelless, apprentice, struck off the list, holds the platinum. Liang Wei led his group southeast, toward the city of Linzhou. There, in 14 days, the preliminary selection for the Tournament of the 9 Forges would begin. Open registration for anyone who presented a golden rank artifact or higher. The blade of the 9 names ZSHK 28542. Platinum. More, the threshold had been crossed 30 times. On the 5th day of the journey, Qin Shuang brought news. She went out on reconnaissance every morning and returned in the evening. She knew the trails. She knew the people. She knew how to listen without drawing attention. She said that the Liao clan had declared a hunt, officially, not through mercenaries, through their own patrols. The bounty on Liang Wei's head had been raised to 2,000 gold liang. His portrait had been distributed to all the outposts in the province. Every patrol unit had received orders to kill on sight. And one more thing, Liao Zihao had left the capital with his personal guard. 20 fighters, average ZSHK 600. The security commander's ZSHK is 2,800 gold, and Zihao himself, his ZSHK is no longer 380. The family invested, artifacts, elixirs, forced leveling. His new ZSHK is 1,600 silver, plus a family artifact, a rank 4,000 sword, gold, total 5,600. Zihao, with a total score of 5,600, is heading to Linzhou for the preliminary selection. With a stolen name, with bought power, with 20 bodyguards. Liang Wei listened. His expression didn't change. He asked only one thing, where his mother and sister were now. Qin Shuang shook her head. She hadn't been able to find out. The Liang family home was under surveillance. 3 clan agents around the clock. His mother and sister don't go out, or can't go out. Liang Wei nodded. He gripped the hilt of his blade. His knuckles turned white. Then he let go. Tao Heizi walked beside him and said nothing. His left sword had been replaced with the sword of one of the hall's slain fighters. ZSHK 1,200. Silver, better than his old one. His right sword remained the same. ZSHK 1,500. Tao Heizi's total stat with weapons, 6,700. Upper gold. He had grown stronger, not on his own. Through trophies. That's how this world works. The strong take from the dead.
They reached Linzhou in 9 days. The city was large, 3 times the size of Heishu. Stone walls, gates with guards, a line at the gates. Farmers, blacksmiths, mercenaries, merchants. Everyone was flocking to the tournament like moths to a flame. In the square in front of City Hall stood a huge stone pillar, 10 meters tall, smooth. The names of past tournament winners were carved into it. Over 3,000 years, all from the 9 clans, not a single outsider, not a single one. Liang Wei looked at the pillar. He walked past it. Registration took place in the blacksmith's guild building. Neutral territory. No clan controls the guild. Formally. In reality, each of the 9 clans has its own people on the council. But the tournament's law predates the clans. Anyone with a gold rank artifact has the right to participate. It is carved in stone, literally, on that very pillar in the square. Liang Wei entered the building, alone, a hooded cloak, his face in shadow. The blade of the 9 names beneath his cloak. The registration hall. A long table. 3 guild officials at the table. A line of 12 people in front of the table. Each one presents an artifact. The official scans it. Records the ZSHK. Issues a participant token. Liang Wei joined the line. He waited. A young blacksmith from the Bai clan was registering before him. The Northern clan. Icy peaks. White robes, a haughty, an artifact, a spear. ZSHK 3200, gold. The official recorded it, issued a token. Next, Liang Wei approached the table. He pulled back his hood. The official looked up. He saw a young, scarred face, a torn apprentice's robe beneath a cloak, an empty clan seal on the sleeve. Struck off. The official frowned. He asked for a name. Liang Wei. Clan. No clan. Status. An expelled apprentice of the Liao clan. The official exchanged glances with the other 2. One of them quickly wrote something on a note and passed it to an assistant. The assistant ran out of the hall. Liang Wei noticed. He didn't let on. The official said that a gold rank artifact was required for registration. Liang Wei placed the blade of 9 names on the table. Flat, black metal, 29 lines, a hilt with 10 fingers. The official took out a scanner. He pointed it at the blade. The crystal flashed. A number appeared. The official froze. His hand holding the crystal trembled. He looked at the number. Looked at Liang Wei. Back at the number. Wiped the crystal with his sleeve. Scanned it again. The number hadn't changed. 28542. The official placed the crystal on the table, slowly, carefully, as if the crystal might explode. 2 other officials leaned forward. They saw the number. One of them stood up and stepped out from behind the desk. He walked to the back door, quickly. The second remained, but his face turned pale. The official at the desk swallowed. He said the number was confirmed, that the artifact was platinum rank, that it was above the threshold, that registration was approved. His voice trembled. He handed over a token, a copper disc with a number, 47, the 47th preliminary selection participant. Liang Wei took the token. He took the blade. He turned and walked toward the exit. Behind him, the registration hall erupted in whispers. 12 people had seen the number. 12 mouths began to speak. By evening, all of Linzhou would know. The disqualified apprentice, the channelless, the platinum artifact, 28,542. He stepped out onto the square. The sun was blinding. The crowd was buzzing. Somewhere to the right, vendors were selling grilled meat on skewers. Somewhere to the left, 2 cultivators were arguing about bets on the tournament. Just another day. Liang Wei pulled up his hood and headed for the tavern where the others were waiting. He stopped halfway there. A man stood before him. Short, stocky, dressed in expensive clothes bearing the Liao clan's insignia. Behind him were 6 guards in full armor. Liang Wei recognized him.
Elder Liao Guang, one of the 6 witnesses to the burning of the channels, the one who stood third from the left and nodded when Zihao took the blade. ZSHK 4800, gold. Elder Liao Guang recognized Liang Wei as well. His face flashed through 3 expressions in 2 seconds: surprise, understanding, fear. Fear was the last and remained. He took a step back. The guards closed in around him. 6 swords were halfway out of their sheaths. Liang Wei stood his ground, hands at his sides, the blade under his cloak. He looked at the elder, straight into his eyes. He didn't say a word. He didn't move. He just stared. Elder Liao Guang looked away first. He turned. He left, quickly. The guards followed him, almost running, across the square to the Liao clan's carriages. Liang Wei watched them go. Third from the left, he remembered. Liao Guang, ZSK 4800. Then he walked on. News awaited him at the tavern. Qin Shuang sat at a table with a map of Linzhou. Tao Heizi stood by the window, watching the street. Old man He ate rice and said nothing. Qin Shuang said that Zihao had arrived in Linzhou this morning. He was staying at the Liao clan's mansion on the north side of the city. With him were 20 guards and 3 elders: Liao Guang, Liao Ming, Liao Jie. 3 of the 6 witnesses: ZSHK 4800, 5100, 3900. Total with the guards and Zihao, approximately 28,000. Against Liang Wei with a blade, 28,542. Almost equal, but not one-on-one. 23 people against 1. Liang Wei sat down at the table. He placed token number 47 next to the card. He said he wouldn't attack. Not now. Not here. At the tournament. In public. In front of witnesses. In front of the judges. In front of representatives of all 9 clans. He would destroy Zihao in the arena. By the rules. By the law. So that no clan could call it murder. And then he would show the letter from clan leader Liao with the contract on his head. In front of everyone. Tao Heizi turned away from the window. He said it was beautiful, but he asked what was stopping the clan from simply killing Liang Wei before the tournament. At night, in a tavern, with a knife in the back. Liang Wei replied that tournament law forbids violence between participants outside the arena. A violator loses the right to participate forever. For the entire clan. The entire Liao clan would be disqualified. Forever. No clan head would agree to that. The tournament is more important than a single apprentice. Tao Heizi paused. Then he said there are those not bound by the tournament. The 1,000-faced one. He is alive. He is at large. And he has a contract. Liang Wei nodded. He knew. The 1,000-faced one will come. Not to the tournament, before or after, but he will come. We must be ready for this. That night, Liang Wei lay on a hard cot in the tavern and listened. The blade of 9 names rested on his chest. 29 voices whispered, quieter than before. They were settling in, getting used to it. Some were no longer shouting. Some weren't even speaking. They were simply breathing inside the metal. Huang Lei whispered the quietest of all, but her words were distinct. She said he would come for her, the 1,000-faced one, that he always comes for his own. Liang Wei opened his eyes in the darkness. A fragment of consciousness inside the blade remembers its former commander. It remembers and warns. He gripped the hilt. 29 voices fell silent, all at once, as if a blacksmith had struck the anvil and the metal had fallen silent. The Zish Ka of artifacts in Liang Wei's aura, 28,542. The whisper threshold of 10,000 had long been crossed. The whisper clock was active. Every midnight, the inner forge.
Every night, a battle with his own weapons. Liang Wei closed his eyes. Midnight. The forge opened. He stepped inside. The inner forge looked like the Liao clan's workshop. The very same one. The same walls, the same workbench, the same cheap clay teapot. Even the half-eaten bun lay in its place. His mother had slipped it into his sleeve for good luck. Liang Wei stood in the middle of the room and knew it was a lie. Not a workshop. The space inside the blade. The territory of 29 dead men. They didn't come right away. First, a sound. A metallic rumble, as if someone had struck a giant anvil underground. Then, shadows. They gathered by the walls. They took shape. They took on faces. The leader of the gang from the gorge emerged first. ZSHK 340. He looked just as he had in life. Shaven head, a scar across his face. But his eyes were different. Empty. Hungry. He said he wanted to go back. That it was cold in the metal. That it was dark. Liang Wei didn't answer. The rest followed the leader. Mercenaries from the gorge. Patrol soldiers. Liao Feng with a spear. Fighters from the Hall of 1,000 Blades. Huang Lei with 2 wounds on his shoulder and thigh that wouldn't heal. 29 figures. In a semicircle. Faces from the shadows. Eyes from the void. The rules of the inner forge are not simple. Fragments of consciousness attack. If Liang Wei wins, the fragment integrates. It becomes part of the blade forever. A silent, obedient part. Plus 1% to the yield of the next forging. If he loses, the fragment breaks free. The artifact turns against its owner. Death in sleep. They attacked. All at once. No tactics, no formation. A mob of the dead. But here in the forge, they possessed a power they lacked in life. This was their territory, their world. Liang Wei had no blade. Inside the forge, the weapon is will, nothing more. He raised his hands, not to strike, to forge. He visualized the anvil. It appeared, black. The very one, from the cave, hot, alive, pulsing. The gang leader was the first to reach him. He swung. Liang Wei grabbed him by the throat and laid him on the anvil, like a workpiece, like a piece of metal. He struck with his fist, not the face, the essence, that which made this fragment of consciousness separate from the blade. The leader, his body melted, sank into the anvil, disappeared, integrated, plus 1%, 2, 3, 4. Liang Wei worked, the anvil accepted, the rank and file went down easily. Their will is weak. In life, they were weak. In death, even weaker. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. The rank and file were finished. The strong remained. Liao Feng, ZSHK 680 in life. Here, his strength is proportional. He attacked with a spear, the very same one, the phantom one. Liang Wei dodged, grabbed the shaft, broke it, placed Liao Feng on the anvil. A blow, integration, harder. Liao Feng resisted, 3 strikes instead of 1, but the result was the same. An elite fighter from the ZSHK 2200 Hall. Even harder, 5 strikes, each one drained his strength. The inner forge fed on the blacksmith's will. The stronger the shard, the more willpower is required. Huang Lei, ZSHK 3100. She didn't attack. She stood and watched. Wounds on her shoulder and thigh oozed phantom blood. She said she didn't want to fight, that she wanted to talk. Liang Wei stopped. 26 shards integrated. 3 remained. Huang Lei. And the 2 privates hiding behind her back. Huang Lei said that the 1,000-faced one wasn't human, that in 30 years she hadn't seen his real face even once, that he changed bodies, not masks, bodies, that every time she entered his office, a different man stood before her. Height, weight, voice, hands, everything else. She said that once, after a mission, she walked in on him unannounced, without knocking. He was sitting at his desk, without a mask, an ordinary face, nothing remarkable. But on the desk in front of him lay an artifact, small, round, like a coin. And for a split second, Huang Lei's scanner displayed a number before the thousand-faced one noticed her and snapped the case shut. The number was 47,000, Jade rank, for the head of a mercenary guild, for a man who, according to all records, doesn't exceed gold. Liang Wei listened. Jade, 47,000.
That changes everything. Thousand-Faced isn't just the head of the mercenaries, he's Jade, the level of clan leaders, the level of patriarchs. Who is he really? Huang Lei said she didn't know, but she knew one thing. The Thousand-Faced one had been interested in Liang Wei long before the Liao clan contract. 2 months before the betrayal, the Thousand-Faced one sent an agent to the Liao clan's workshop to observe, a fourth-year apprentice, to watch Liang Wei. He knew in advance. Liang Wei laid Huang Lei on the anvil. She didn't resist. She closed her eyes. One blow, integration. The last 2 rank-and-file members surrendered on their own. They lay down on the anvil without a fight. The inner forge was empty. The workshop walls began to ooze like wax. The ceiling collapsed silently. The floor turned to metal. Liang Wei stood alone in an endless expanse of black metal. 29 shards integrated, all of them, plus 29% toward the yield of the next forging. The 9 names blade had become more obedient, quieter, stronger. Liang Wei opened his eyes. A bunk in a tavern, a dark wooden ceiling, a gray dawn outside the window. His body ached, as if after a day at the anvil. But his head was clear, clearer than ever. He sat up. The blade lay across his chest. Warm. Silent. The 29 voices had finally fallen silent. Not for a while. Forever. He thought of the Thousand-Faced one. Jade. 47,000. An artifact in the shape of a coin. Interest in Liang Wei 2 months before the betrayal. Someone knew about him before he did. Someone was watching. Someone was waiting. For 3,000 years, the 9 clans had hunted the line of the primordial fire. The Thousand-Faced one knew where to look. Or someone had told him. Someone from above. Liang Wei stood up, got dressed, took his blade, left the room. Qin Shuang was waiting for him in the hallway. Her face was pale. Her lips were pressed together. She said a murder had taken place in the city that night. Helian, the black market merchant, the very one. The one who bandaged Liang Wei's shoulder in the gorge. The one who gave information about the patrols. Found in his room at the inn. Throat slit. Next to the body, a single word was written in blood on the wall. Debt. The Thousand-Faced one. He is here, in Linzhou, and he has begun. Liang Wei stood in the tavern's hallway, his hand on the hilt of his blade, his face like stone. Lian is dead. The first person who helped him after his exile. Dead, because he helped. Liang Wei gripped the hilt. The fingers of 10 metal hands on the guard clenched in response, as if the blade had clenched its fist along with him. He whispered softly, "One name, the Thousand-Faced one." Then he added, "You're next." The preliminary round began at dawn. The Linzhou Arena, a stone amphitheater seating 3,000 spectators. A circular arena in the center, 20 meters in diameter. Sand, stone. The blood of past tournaments had soaked into the floor over the centuries. The stands were full. Elders of the 9 clans in separate boxes. Merchants, mercenaries, common folk. 47 participants. The format was simple. A draw, matches. A fight to the surrender or until unable to continue.
Death in the arena was permitted, but not encouraged. The judges, 3 master blacksmiths of the guild, each with a ZSHK above 10,000, neutral, relatively speaking. Liang Wei stood in the passageway for the participants and looked at the arena. The blade of the 9 names on his belt, hood thrown back, face uncovered, scars visible. An empty clan seal on his sleeve is visible. Let them look. Tao Heizi stood nearby, not as a participant, as a bodyguard. 2 swords on his back. His eyes scanned the crowd, looking for the 1,000-faced one. He didn't find him. The draw. The judge pulled out the numbers. First match, participant 12 versus participant 31. 2 blacksmiths from clan branches, ZSK 3,000 and 2,800. Gold. The fight lasted 4 minutes. Boring. Predictable. The one with the higher number won. Second fight. Third. Fourth. Liang Wei waited, watched, memorized. In the 7th match, Liao Zihao entered the arena. Liang Wei leaned forward. Zihao had changed, not on the inside, on the outside. The Liao clan's expensive robe, new armor, polished, with silver engravings. A sword at his belt, not a training sword, a family heirloom. ZSHK 4,000, gold. Zihao himself, ZSK 1,600, total 5,600. His opponent, an independent blacksmith, young, nervous, ZSHK 2,100, gold. Lower tier. The fight began. Zihao attacked, roughly, without technique. He swung his sword like a club, but the family artifact, ZSHK 4,000, made up for everything. Every strike carried the power of gold. The independent blacksmith blocked. Once, twice, 3 times. On the 4th block, his sword broke. ZSHK 1,200 against 4,000. The artifact sliced through the air and the enemy's blade in a single motion. The independent blacksmith raised his hands. He surrendered. Zihao smiled, the same smile, smug, sated. The smile of a man who had never earned what he had. He turned toward the Liao clan's box. The elders nodded. The clan head was not present in person, but his shadow lay over every nod. Liang Wei watched Zihao and assessed. Not the strikes, not the technique, the weaknesses. Zihao exposes his right side when he swings. He doesn't shift his weight to his back leg. He doesn't know counterattack. He can't do anything at all. A talentless fool with an expensive toy. 12th match. Contestant 47, Liang Wei. Against contestant 23, a blacksmith from the Shu clan branch, Southern clan. Fighters ZSHK, 3,400, artifact, saber. ZSHK, 4,200, gold. Total 7,600, a serious opponent for someone else. Liang Wei stepped into the arena. The sand crunched under his boots. 3,000 pairs of eyes. He could feel them. The Liao clan box. The 3 elders. Liao Guang, Liao Ming, Liao Jie. Zihao beside them. His smile vanished when he saw Liang Wei. He recognized him. He turned pale. He leaned back in his seat as if he wanted to press himself against the wall. The Shu clan's box. Liang Wei's gaze drifted over. A young woman in the front row. White robes, a fan in her hand, a shiny hairpin in her hair. No, not a hairpin. A scanner. An imperial-grade artifact. Princess Shu Wanqing. ZSHK 9,000. Heiress of the Southern clan. She looked at Liang Wei with polite indifference. Another one crossed off the list. Uninteresting. The judge raised his hand. The match began. The Shu clan blacksmith attacked first. The saber and arc. Fast, beautiful, clean. The southern clan school. Fluid, smooth, dangerous. ZSHK 7,600 total. Gold, above average. Liang Wei drew the blade of 9 names. The black metal caught the sunlight and did not reflect it. 29 lines on the blade flashed with a dark pulse. 10 fingers on the hilt twitched. The stands fell silent. The judge on the left turned on the scanner. He aimed it at the blade. A number appeared. The judge froze. His mouth fell open. The second judge turned. He saw the number on his colleague's scanner. He rose from his chair. The third judge leaned forward. In the Shu clan's box, Princess Shu Wangqing raised her fan slightly higher. The scanner hairpin in her hair flashed. The number reflected in her pupils. 28542. The fan trembled. It didn't fall. Not yet. The Shu clan blacksmith was scanning too. His saber had a built-in scanner in the pommel. The number flashed before his eyes. He stopped halfway. The saber froze in midair. 28,542. Platinum against his 7,600. A difference of nearly 4 times. A deadly difference. His face went through the stages that Liang Wei had known in advance. Disbelief, double-checking, horror, acceptance. The blacksmith of the Shu clan lowered his saber. He bowed. He said he surrendered. His voice was steady. He was no coward. He was a mathematician. 7,600 against 28,542 was no contest. It's an execution. The arena was silent. 3,000 people stared at the eliminated apprentice with the platinum artifact and couldn't breathe. Then someone in the upper rows gasped, and the dam burst. Noise, shouts, whispers that grew into a roar. The eliminated one! Channelless! Platinum! 28,542! The word spread through the stands like wildfire. Liang Wei sheathed his blade.
He turned and walked toward the arena exit. He didn't look back. In the Liao clan box, Zihao sat as white as chalk. His hands gripped the armrests of his chair. Elder Liao Guang leaned toward him and whispered something. Zihao wasn't listening. He was watching Liang Wei's back. The same apprentice's robe. The same shoulders. But everything had changed. Everything had become different. In the Shu clan's box, Princess Shu Wangqing folded her fan. For the first time all day, she leaned forward. Her eyes followed Liang Wei until he disappeared into the passageway. She turned to her assistant. She gave a quiet order. Find out everything. Name, history, clan, origin, artifact. Everything. The assistant nodded and disappeared. The selection continued. Liang Wei advanced without a fight. Not a single opponent stepped forward against him. The next 3 draws, 3 refusals. The participants looked at the number 28,542 and bowed. We surrender. We surrender. We surrender. Liang Wei advanced to the final bracket of the 9 Forges tournament. Zihao advanced as well. He defeated 2 weak opponents with his family sword. ZSHK 5,600 against 2,000 and 3,100. No problem. No sweat. No skill. The final bracket draw will take place in 3 days. The tournament itself in a week. In the capital, at the 9 Fire Square, in front of the Imperial Court, in front of everyone. Liang Wei stepped out of the amphitheater. The sun was setting behind the walls of Linzhou. The air smelled of autumn and iron. Qin Shuang was waiting at the exit. She said that while Liang Wei was in the arena, a man had come to their tavern,
short, wearing a mask. He left a small case on the threshold. Inside was a coin, silver, engraved with 1,000 blades on the obverse, and a note, one sentence. I will wait for you after the tournament. The 1,000-faced one did not attack. He didn't interfere. He waited. Why? Liang Wei tucked the coin into his bosom. Next to the letter from Clan Chief Liao, 2 messages, 2 enemies, one ahead in the arena, the second in the shadows behind him. He walked toward the tavern and thought, the tournament in a week, Zihao in a week. In a week, it would all truly begin. The capital greeted them with rain, gray walls, gray sky. Water flowed down the stone streets and pooled in the gutters. People walked quickly, heads bowed, raincoats pulled up. No one looked around.
Liang Wei looked. He hadn't been in the capital since his exile. 2 months ago, they'd dragged him across these stones by his feet. His head had slammed against the cobblestones. Blood had left a trail. He remembered every stone. The square of the 9 fires. The center of the capital. Huge, paved with white marble. 9 stone bowls around the perimeter. A fire burns in each one, all year round. The symbol of the 9 clans. In the center of the square, an arena, larger than the one in Linzhou, 30 meters in diameter, stands for 10,000 spectators. The imperial box in the northern section, a golden roof, carved columns, empty for now. The emperor will arrive on the day of the tournament. The 9 clans' boxes in a semicircle, each with its own insignia. The Liao clan, the Bai clan, the Shu clan, and 6 more. Everyone is here. Everyone is watching. The finalists registered this morning. 16 participants. Liang Wei is number 7. Zihao is number 12. The draw is closed. The results will be announced before the first match. Liang Wei wasn't thinking about the draw. He was thinking about something else. That morning, Qin Shuang found the house where Liang Wei's mother and sister lived. A narrow street in the eastern quarter, a small courtyard, a wall with a crack. The windows were closed. 3 clan observers, one at the gate, one on the roof of the neighboring house, one inside. His mother and sister were alive. Qin Shuang saw his mother go out into the courtyard to fetch water. Thin, aged 10 years in 2 months. Her hands were trembling. She returned to the house. Her sister didn't come out. Liang Wei listened. He nodded. He gripped the hilt of his blade. He let go. Not now. The tournament is tomorrow. After the tournament, he'll take them. Personally. The night before the tournament. Liang Wei didn't sleep. He sat on the tavern roof. The rain had stopped. Stars shone through the ragged clouds. The 9 names blade lay on his lap. Silent. 29 minds integrated. Quiet. Obedient. But alive. Liang Wei felt them as warmth within the metal. Tao Heizi climbed onto the roof. Sat down beside him. Silently. A minute later, he spoke. He said he had found out something. From his old contacts in the city. Liao Zihao had received a new artifact. Yesterday. Not the family sword, ZSHK 4000, another one. One of the elders had given him a personal artifact. A shield. ZSHK 8000, platinum. Zihao now carried 2 artifacts, a 4000 sword and an 8000, plus his personal ZSHK 1600. Total 13,600, upper gold, close to platinum. Zihao went from 380 to 13,600 in 2 months. Not by his own strength, someone else's. A gift. Draped like jewelry on an empty mannequin. Liang Wei listened. He smirked. 13,600 versus 28,542. Zihao is still half as strong, even with 2 artifacts, even with forced leveling. The gap hasn't closed.
Tao Heizi said that wasn't all. The 8,000 ZSHK shield belonged to Elder Liao Guang, that very one, third from the left. 4,800 ZSHK. He gave his artifact to the head's nephew, voluntarily, or perhaps not voluntarily. Now Liao Guang is without an artifact. His total ZSHK dropped from 12,800 to 4,800. From platinum to gold. A clan elder. Gold rank. Humiliating. He gave his power to a boy who can't even hold a sword properly. Liang Wei wondered, why? Zihao had already passed the selection. Why boost it to 13,600? 5,600 would be enough for any opponent except Liang Wei. So they know the draw could pit Zihao against Liang Wei, and they're preparing. 13,600 won't be enough. They know that too. So there's something else, something Liang Wei doesn't see. He gripped the hilt. The blade responded with warmth. 29 integrated consciousnesses, plus 29% for the next forging. The reserve is empty. Blade 28,542. That's all there is. It's enough for Zihao, but if Zihao has a surprise up his sleeve, Liang Wei needs one of his own. He turned to Tao Heizi, asked if he was ready for battle. Tao Heizi nodded. 2 swords, ZSK 6700, gold. Not a tournament participant, but a bodyguard. He won't be in the arena, but he's needed outside of it. In case the Liao clan breaks the tournament rules. In case someone decides that the risk of losing tournament status is worth Liang Wei's death. Dawn. The 9 Fires Square. 10,000 spectators. The stands buzzed like a beehive. The Imperial box was occupied. The Emperor himself was not present. He was represented by the Chancellor, old, gaunt, with lizard-like eyes. ZSHK 22000, Jade. The clan boxes were full, all 9. All the heads. No, 8 heads. The head of the Liao Jinhua clan was absent. His box was occupied by the elders. Liao Guang, Liao Ming, Liao Jie, without the head. Strange. The clan head is skipping the tournament. That hasn't happened in the last 50 years. Liang Wei noted it, remembered it. He'll think about it later. Right now, the arena. The referee stepped into the center, announced the bracket. 16 participants, 8 first-round matches. First match, contestant 3 versus contestant 11. Not Liang Wei, not Zihao. Second match, third. Fourth match, contestant 7 versus contestant 12. Liang Wei versus Liao Zihao. In the first round, not in the finals, right at the start. The arena roared. 10,000 voices. Everyone knew, everyone heard. The outcast apprentice against the clan's rightful heir. That very blade, that very story. Rumors flew faster than the wind. Liang Wei stood in the aisle and looked at the arena. Zihao stood in the opposite aisle. Their eyes met across 30 meters. Zihao was pale, but not broken. Something had changed in his face. Not fear, something else. A resolve that hadn't been there before. The resolve of a cornered beast that knows there's nowhere to run. Liang Wei saw it and didn't understand. Zihao knows he's 13,600 against 28,542. Math. Why didn't he give up? Why didn't he refuse to fight? Why was there no fear in his eyes, but something resembling anticipation? The referee raised his hand. He announced the fourth match. Contestant 7, Liang Wei, a disowned apprentice of the Liao clan. No clan affiliation. ZSK Artifact 28542. Platinum rank. Contestant 12, Liao Zihao, heir to the Liao clan. Total ZSHK 13,600. The stands fell silent. 10,000 people held their breath. In the Zhu clan box, Princess Xu Wanqing raised her fan to her face. The scanner in her hair was active. Her eyes were fixed. General He Jin, commander of the Imperial Guard, sat in a special box. ZSHK 18,000, Jade, a veteran of 2 wars. He leaned forward, hands on his knees, attentive. Liang Wei stepped into the arena. Sand, stone, white marble around the edges. Zihao stepped forward to meet him, a sword in his right hand, a shield in his left. ZSHK 4,000 and 8,000, glinting in the sun, a stranger's strength in a stranger's hands. They stopped 5 meters apart. Zihao spoke. He said that Liang Wei should have died in a ditch, that rats don't come into the arena, that today he would finish what he started. Liang Wei was silent. He watched. He waited. The referee lowered his hand.
The fight began. Zihao attacked first. The ZSHK 4000 sword traced an arc from top to bottom. Rough. No training, no technique. The strike of a butcher, not a fencer. Liang Wei stepped to the left. The blade sliced through the air and struck the sand. Dust rose. Zihao thrust his shield forward. A thrust. ZSHK 8000, platinum strength behind the silver hand. The shield slammed into the air where Liang Wei had been standing a second ago. Empty. Liang Wei was already to the right. He didn't attack. He stood. He watched. Zihao spun around. His face was red, angry. He swung again, horizontal. Liang Wei crouched. The blade passed over his head. He stood up. He didn't attack. The stands buzzed. 10,000 people watched as the platinum fighter dodged the gold fighter without landing a single blow. Princess Xu Wanqing clenched her fan a little tighter. General He Jin sat up straight in his chair. He was the first to understand. He said it out loud, quietly, to himself. He was playing with him. Zihao attacked a third time, a fourth, a fifth, a sixth. Every strike missed. Every miss made him slower, angrier, less precise. Liang Wei moved smoothly, economically, not a single extra step. 4 years at the anvil, a blacksmith's precision. Every movement measured to the millimeter, no more, no less. On the 7th strike, Zihao tripped over his own foot. He fell to one knee. His shield dug into the sand. The sword swayed in his weakened hand. He looked up. Liang Wei stood over him. The 9 names blade was still in its sheath, unsheathed. Not once during the entire fight. The stands gasped. The platinum fighter hadn't drawn his weapon. Humiliation, absolute, complete, before the eyes of 10,000. Zihao stood up. His hands were not from fatigue, from rage. He shouted that Liang Wei dared not, that he was the heir, that he was the blood of the clan, that he would destroy this rootless rat. Liang Wei didn't move. He spoke, calmly, quietly. But the arena was designed so that every word from the platform could be heard in the back row. He said that 4 years ago he had come to the Liao clan as a merchant's son, that he had worked 16 hours a day, that he had forged until his hands were covered in burns, and then forged some more, that he had forged the certification blade ZSHK 427, a record in 40 years. The stands listened. He said that Liao Zihao had taken that blade in the presence of the head and 2 elders. He had claimed it as his own. That Liang Wei's chi channels had been burned for surpassing the heir. Paragraph 14 of the Liao clan charter. His voice did not waver, not once. Facts, numbers, names. 10,000 people were silent. Absolute silence. Even the wind had died down. Liang Wei pulled a letter from his bosom, unfolded it, raised it above his head.
He said it was a contract for his assassination, signed by the head of the Liao clan, Liao Zhenhua. The sum? 2,000 gold liang. The executor? Haul of 1,000 blades. The contract included the seizure of any artifact forged by Liang Wei. In the Liao clan's box, 3 elders leapt to their feet. Liao Guang turned pale. Liao Ming gripped the armrest so hard the wood cracked. Liao Jie took a step back. The chancellor in the imperial box raised an eyebrow. Just one. A gesture that spoke louder than a shout. Liang Wei put the letter away. He looked at Zihao. He was standing in the arena, pale, mouth agape. The sword in his hand trembled. His shield dropped. Liang Wei placed his hand on the hilt of the 9-named blade. For the first time in the entire battle, the stands gasped. 10,000 pairs of lungs at once. He drew the blade. Slowly. The black metal emerged from the scabbard like night from the horizon. 29 lines on the blade flashed. His fingers tightened on the hilt. Every scanner in the stands flashed. 28,542. The number hung in the mind of every cultivator in the square. Princess Shu Wanqing pointed her hairpin scanner. It flashed. The number. She blinked. She looked again. She blinked again. The fan slipped from her fingers. It fell to the floor of the box. She didn't pick it up. She whispered with her lips alone that this rank wasn't in the registries, that this rank was a myth. General He Jin sat motionless. His hand rose unconsciously to the general's insignia on his chest. He had seen this only in war, a power that makes one forget one's own rank. Liang Wei stepped forward. Zihao raised his shield. ZSHK 8,000. Platinum! Liang Wei struck. Once. The blade of the 9 names, ZSHK 28,542, met the ZSHK 8,000 shield. The difference 3.5 times. The shield split. It didn't crack. It split, like a clay plate. Shards of the platinum artifact scattered across the arena. Shiny. Useless. Dead. Zihao's arm, which had been holding the shield, snapped at the elbow. The crunch of bone echoed throughout the arena. Zihao screamed. He fell to his knees. The sword fell from his other hand. Liang Wei stood over him, a blade at his throat, a black blade a centimeter from his skin. Zihao looked up into Liang Wei's eyes. There was no rage there, no triumph, no pity. There was a number, cold, precise, final. Liang Wei spoke, quietly. The arena carried every word. He said that paragraph 14 of the Liao clan charter states that an apprentice has no right to surpass a blood heir. He said he agreed, that therefore he was no longer an apprentice of the Liao clan. Then he raised his left hand. He placed Zihao's palm on his forehead. The seal flared. Zihao twitched. He screamed. The scream cut off in a wheeze. His body began to change. His skin turned gray, then dark, then shiny. Metal. His flesh was turning into metal, slowly, before the eyes of 10,000 spectators. Liao Zihao was melting into nothingness. His ZSHK was 1,600, slow conversion, maximum 95%. 1,520 units to the reserve, plus the shield's residual energy, plus the sword. In total, the reserve accepted 4,200 units. Zihao's body had become entirely metal, a small piece of dark metal on the arena sand. Liang Wei picked it up, clenched it in his fist. The metal flowed. It seeped into the blade of 9 names. A 30th line appeared on the blade. Thinner than the rest, fainter, but it was there. Zihao became part of the blade, forever. The arena was silent. 10,000 statues. General He Jin slowly removed his general's insignia from his chest. He placed it on his knees, not on the ground, but close, the gesture of a warrior who sees what is beyond his understanding. In the Bai clan's box sat Elder Bai Longsheng, the patriarch, 240 years old, ZSHK 45,000, Jade. He sat motionless. Then he stood up. Slowly, his bones creaked. He turned and walked away, silently, without a word. His assistant rushed after him. Bai Longsheng would return to his mountains and write a letter to the council. The 9 clans are finished. The 10th has arrived. Liang Wei stood in the center of the arena, in an apprentice's robe, with a blade in his hand. Shards of a shield lay around him. Sand. Silence. He looked at the Liao clan's box. 3 elders stood there, pale.
Motionless, he spoke evenly. I am the 10th clan. His voice was no louder than usual, but everyone heard him. The arena erupted, not with shouts, with something greater, the sound the world makes when something in it breaks forever. And at that moment, the sky opened. Not clouds, not a storm, the sky itself, as if someone had cut through the fabric of the world from horizon to horizon. Light poured down from above, not sunlight, green, jade, cold. A figure descended from the sky, slowly, like a falling feather. A man in a jade mask, clothes made of metal that moved like fabric. Every scanner in the square flashed, flicked, smoked, melted. 10,000 scanners burned out simultaneously. The number was too great. The scale couldn't handle it. Princess Shu Wanqing grabbed the hairpin in her hair. Hot, melting. She yanked it out, threw it. The imperial artifact fell to the floor of the box as a smoking lump of metal. General He Jin stood up. His hand rested on his sword. A reflex. Useless. He knew it was useless. For the first time in 30 years, the Chancellor's expression in the imperial box changed. A figure descended into the arena, 10 paces from Liang Wei. The sand didn't stir. The air didn't move, as if gravity couldn't bring itself to touch this man. A voice sounded not aloud, inside, in the mind of every spectator, in the mind of every person in the square, simultaneously. Little blacksmith, I've been waiting for you for 3,000 years. Let's go talk about your father. Liang Wei stood in the arena, the 9 names blade in his hand, 30 lines on the blade, 30 lives in metal. Before him stood a being whose ZSHK had burned out every measuring device in the square. The ancient blacksmith Yu, the founder, the creator, the jailer of the 9 clans, the one who, for 3,000 years, carved the line of the primordial fire and skipped one branch. The branch that became a salt merchant. The merchant became a father. The father became an inheritance. The inheritance became a seal. The seal became a horn. The horn became a blade. And the blade came to the square of 9 fires. Yu smiled. Liang Wei could see it even through the mask. The smile showed in the curve of the jade, in the tilt of his head, in the relaxation of his shoulders. Yu was not afraid. He posed no threat. He smiled like a master who had finally found a worthy blank. Liang Wei gripped the hilt. The 30 integrated consciousnesses within the blade fell silent. That was it. For the first time, not out of command, not out of fear, they feared the one standing opposite them. Liang Wei was not afraid. He was calculating. The seal in his chest burned steadily, a furnace that had burned for 3,000 years. He whispered with his lips alone, not to you, to himself. The 4 names were the beginning. Now there were more, far more, and the list was not closed. He raised the blade. The black edge caught the jade light and did not return it.
10,000 spectators watched. 2 forces in the arena, ancient and new. 3,000 years and 19 years. The creator of the system and the one who came to break it. You stopped smiling. Liang Wei wasn't smiling either. He never smiled. He forged.